Hello, everybody. Pop culture curator here. So good to see you guys again. I know we missed the last week or two of Lost in Space. I feel really bad for that, but I promise we'll make up for it in abundance. We're gonna have a great time tonight. Gorilla's Random Thoughts is one of our usual cohorts or co-hosts on our Lost in Space stream, and he's not able to make it. He had an errand he had to run. I'm hoping, Gorilla, if you're listening, maybe you can stop in later when you're done if you're able to come in at all. If not, we do understand. And I know there's some mighty patient people who've been waiting in the chat for going on what seemed like probably at least 30 minutes. And I want to thank all of you for your patience and for being here tonight, especially, like I said, after my absences over the past week or two. And I wanted to say also hello and welcome to my fellow co-panelists. PvP, how are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a holiday here. It's Thanksgiving today in Canada, so I just been catching up on some housework and cooked myself a fairly simple Thanksgiving dinner. Nothing too fancy, but it filled the stomach, so I guess it was okay. So yeah, nothing too remarkable going on actually. Kind of a quiet day.
All right, very cool. How about you do? Excuse me, Antiderivative Jill. How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, happy Canadian Thanksgiving. And
Thank you, Jill.
I'm doing pretty well. All right, nothing to complain about.
All right. Well, it's good to see both you guys. And I did miss the having these streams. I know I wasn't up to myself last week, but I did miss it, and I did tune in into a lot of your streams. I was there lurking in the background, so I wasn't totally gone. At least not mentally. Physically, yes. Mentally, no.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're feeling better. That's good. I hope that
Yes, 100 times
continues.
better. Yeah. As a recap, everybody, I've been going through treatment, and whenever it's once every 3 weeks, and every time I go through the treatment, I have to ride it out for a few days. It's really rough, and by the time I ride it out and I start feeling better, it's almost time for the next treatment. So I've got another week and a half until the next one, which I'm dreading. But I'll see what happens. I wanted to say hello to Basil Battle Dragon. Basil says hi, guys.
Hey,
So
Basil.
good to see you, Basil.
Hey,
Yeah, I really
Basil.
do appreciate you guys coming and spending time with us tonight. And PvP is who is now up on the chat. Pleasant Valley Picker says hello. And hello, Lemon Pie. So good to see you as well. Lemon Pie says good evening.
Hey, Lemon.
And PvP says hey, Lemon. And Jill says hello. And Jill says hi, Basil, Pleasant Valley Picker, and Lemon Pie. And there's me. I put a link in the panel. It should be hopefully pinned. If you have a good net connection, good, nice and stable audio and microphone, and you'd like to join us and talk about this episode of Lost in Space, feel free to do so. That's why I put the link there is for everybody. If you have a good net connection. PvP says hi, Jill. Lemon Pie says hey, Basil. PvP Jill. Lemon Pie says howdy, Pop. Howdy, Lemon.
Hey, lemon pie.
And Lemon Pie says Pleasant Valley Eggnog. And hello to my good friend Nemesis of Eden. How are you doing, Nemesis? He says, popping in to say hi and leave a like. Hope you're all doing well today. Yes, we are, Nemesis. And I'm excited for tomorrow night, which I promise I will be ready for. I already have the link already put up. That reminds me, I need to get the poll put up for this episode. It's getting to where I have to put the poll up at the last minute, otherwise it just randomly deletes or erases for some reason. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Hey, can only listen for a bit. Understandable, Gorilla. Drive safe. And Mad Scientist, so good to see you, my good friend Mad Scientist. He
Hey, mad
says, good
scientist.
evening, all. And PvP says, hi, Nemesis. And Nemesis says, PvP has been giving thanks for the eggnog. PvP has been giving thanks. The eggnog has returned. And Nemesis Bean says, hello there, PvP. And hello to my good friend LDG also. Hello, says LDG, free the net.
Hey, hello.
Hey, LDG.
Lemon Pie, Gorilla, Nemesis, Mad, hello, or applause, however you look at it. Nemesis Beaton says Lemon, and Basil Battle Dragon says hi there, Pop. Well, hi there, Basil. And Gorilla says someone call him Scurvy for me. All right, Scurvy. That was for Gorilla. Nemesis Beaton says hello there, Pop. I'm doing well, buddy. How are you doing tonight? You sound chipper. Yes, I do feel much better, everybody. I'll be ready for tonight. I'll be ready for tomorrow, and I'll be ready for to return Gilligan's Island on Wednesday with Gorilla's Random Thoughts if everything lines up correctly. Basil Battle Dragon says hi, Gorilla. And Gorilla says, hey, Bazillion and Scurvy. And Lemon Pie says, call him Scurvy for me, LOL. And Nemesis Bean says, hello there, Jill.
Hi.
So, I know it's been a long time since we've covered Lost in Space. I think it's been, what, 2 weeks?
We only missed 1 week.
Yeah, I think
Only
it's been
one?
2
It seems
weeks.
like 2.
Was it 2?
I can't remember.
Maybe you're right.
You could always look it up on the channel. I mean, that would tell us, right? So
That's true. Just for me, it seems like forever. But I know the last episode we covered was the Space Trader.
yeah, it's been
And
at least a couple weeks then, I guess. Actually, yeah.
I think it's been 2. And
Shit.
But
yeah,
you're right. It was 2 weeks. It's just that we knew for sure that 1 week wasn't going to happen, but the other one, we weren't sure.
Damn. Oh well, it's about time we get to this one then. It's been
yes,
so long since I watched it now, I'm kind of forgetting it, but I'm sure with Jill's awesome stills, it'll all refresh my memory as we go through the episode. So that's cool.
yeah, I should remember as well. The last time I watched it was when the 3 of us had the watch party on Gorilla's channel.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Like, it's been a couple weeks probably since I watched it. Yeah, jeez.
And yes, tonight we're going to be covering season 1, episode 24, His Majesty Smith. And I'll be reading from the book Lost in Space, the authorized biography of a classic sci-fi series by Mark Cushman. It was a fantastic book. He has a very thick book, and he has one for each season. So I'm getting close to the end. It looks like it's almost time to order season 2. And he also wrote some great books on Star Trek. If you like Star Trek, the original series, I couldn't recommend you any more. He's very, very in-depth with all the detail and behind-the-scenes information, interviews with the cast, and even production notes. So an immense amount or a wealth of knowledge, I guess you could say.
So we've got only like what 5 episodes left in season 1 now, Pop, something like that.
Well, tonight we're doing His Majesty Smith.
29 in total, was it not this season?
5 more episodes, and then we're gonna we're gonna cover the pilot. I'm almost wondering if we should have done that earlier. I hope people haven't forgotten we did the pilot, but that will be the 6th one.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah.
Then we can see how they assembled the pilot, or I guess how they broke it up into those 5 first episodes. We can compare the difference.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
And this is His Majesty Smith, which premiered Wednesday, March 16th of 1966. And the short description goes, Dr. Smith delights that he is made ruler of an alien species until he learns that he is also their sacrifice. Of course. So there's going to be a lot of tropes that are going to be introduced in this episode that we'll see more of in the series. I'll put it that way, without giving away too many spoilers. I know it's an old show, 50 years old, and how can you spoil it? But I'll do my best not to. As I read from the book, I'll try to keep up with what's currently on the screen, rather than reading about scenes that are coming up, so I don't confuse people out there who have either not seen this episode or have not seen it in a long time. If you are new to my channel, please consider hitting the like button or maybe even the subscribe button. We've got a lot of good sci-fi content on there available, and I'll be coming up with a lot more. And I also highly recommend, you guys are going to see a little bot pop up in the chat every now and then. This is Stream Elements bot. And that will be sharing links to all the various subscribers and friends I have channels out there. And please check out their channels as well. They're the best people in the world, and I highly recommend it. If you like sci-fi, horror, classics, anything like that, you've come to the right place. So tonight, we're going to be reading from His Majesty Smith. Let me get all my ducks lined up. There we go, on the right page here. The assessment for this episode is, as with the Space Trader, which we saw last week, this isn't last time, I'll put it that way. This is an episode which would serve as a template for many to come, especially during the 2nd season. Smith bribed or conned by aliens with promises of riches and power, or in the case of Trader, merely some food, all of which, of course, leads to Smith getting himself into deep trouble. His Majesty Smith was also the first of several instances in the series in which Smith would be replicated. However, unlike Trader and a handful of other episodes that were later made that featured a similar theme. This one sparkles with fresh ideas, a strong central theme, many surprises, and some truly humorous moments, as opposed to ones which merely attempt to be funny. Daddy Zach, Smith's clone, is a delight, as are reactions from the Robinsons, Major West, and the robot to this changed Smith, who is selfless and hardworking, and which, as the robot says, does not compute. Jonathan Harris shines in this episode, playing two different Smiths. Guest player Kevin Hagen also turns in an original take on the old monstrous alien role. Credit must go to writers Kerry Wilbur and Tony Wilson. The quirkiness of the characterizations is well in place on the written page. The dual themes in the story have to do with identifying the positive virtues in humankind and the heroic trait of self-sacrifice. Looks like Kerry Wilbur's first treatment and 1 and 2 draft of the teleplays were turned in January and early February of 1966. They were later revised by Tony Wilson, and the last revision was on February 24th. Kerry Wilbur returned for his fourth Lost in Space assignment, third to be produced with one abandoned. By this time, Wilbur had written Space Seed, his one and only script for Star Trek, which Trek producers Gene Roddenberry and Gene L. Kuhn rewrote. The rewrite was substantial enough for both producers to request screen credit from the Writers Guild of America Arbitration Board. After reading, well, it's not the first time we've heard of this. After reading all drafts of the script, Roddenberry's name was omitted and the screen credit read, teleplay by Gene L. Kuhn and Kerry Wilbur. Story by Kerry Wilbur. Wilbur was more fortunate with his scripts for Lost in Space. In fact, even though Tony Wilson contributed 8 different sets of page revisions between February 5th and February 24th, there was never a complete rewrite. Therefore, it was primarily Wilbur's version of the script which went before the camera. Wilbur does well at defining Smith and explaining how the Robinsons can have affection for him despite his many faults. In one scene, Will, baffled by the behavior of Daddy Zach, asks, "Do you suppose there's something wrong?" And Don answers, "With Smith, if there is, I hope it's lasting. You know, I could actually almost like the guy." Will says, "I don't know. The way he was before, I know he was lazy and greedy and an awful liar, but there was just something so darn human about him." And I don't want to read too much, but I'm sure you guys will recognize that we also have a guest star who also guest starred in Star Trek as well. So not only do we have the same guy who wrote this episode, wrote Space Seed, but you're going to recognize an actor from Plato's Stepchildren. And we'll bring up more of that when we get there. And a side note is, once again, Jill went through the arduous task of putting all these slides together for tonight's stream. And for that, I highly appreciate it. Unfortunately,
You're welcome.
it is, oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, believe me. Unfortunately, on her last TOS stream, the Mega Glory last week, she got some warnings from, unfortunately, Paramount. So she's trying a new tactic by putting watermarks in the slides. So if you notice any difference, that's probably what it is. You're going to see some watermarks. Because we're hoping to try to not get in trouble from, in this case, it's 20th Century Fox. I don't know if they're going to complain as bad as Paramount, but you never know. So as they say, better safe than sorry.
Exactly. That's my reasoning for it. Even though Fox may not be as bad about it, I know that I could play really long Orville clips, and it doesn't matter. So
Yeah, hopefully
it
Fox.
does depend on the company.
Hopefully Fox won't be as bad as Paramount was. So fingers crossed, right? So let's see. We'll
Right, and
find out.
now that I think about it, I have not been given any warnings out of all of our Lost in Space streams. I haven't received any warnings yet. I know I don't play very many clips, so I keep that to a minimum. But I seem to have worse luck. Like with Gilligan's Island, I get warnings all the time. So it does depend on which company. Unfortunately, some seem to be friendlier than others, which is sad because, as we know, we're not trying to steal anything. We're all fans, and all we're trying to do is talk about something that we love and share it with everybody else. And what we're doing is hoping to promote it to people who have not seen it yet. I mean, this Lost in Space stream alone has brought several new people into the show who have never watched it before. So I'm very happy for that. And that's the reason why we do it. It's not just steal it. It's basically to turn it on to new generations. And that you would think that that's something that the studios would be behind and not against.
Yeah, you would You would hope, but it doesn't seem to be that way sometimes, unfortunately. Yeah.
No, it doesn't, right? Especially because we're not just showing the whole episode wholesale from beginning to end. We're doing stills, we're stopping it, we're talking about it, we're giving commentary on it. But who am I? I'm preaching to the choir, right?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's
Nemesis,
weird. Like, I'm sure new people that, watch some of these streams do discover the show for the first time and they start to watch it and they really enjoy it. So you'd think that the studios would be happy that, new people are starting to discover the show, but it's like, well, go figure, eh?
right? Because the first thing I do is I tell everybody go out there and buy that DVD set, go out there and buy that Blu-ray set.
Yeah.
The
And
first
the
thing I
thing
do is
is,
encourage everybody to own it.
the Lost in Space DVDs are very affordable too. I mean, they're not expensive at all if you go online and look around for a deal. I mean, there's good deals out there, right? So,
There is even the Blu-rays are at a really good price, which I
yeah.
recommend. You'll get
Yeah,
a
when I
lot more
bought
behind
the
the scenes clips and info with the Blu-rays, so that's really fascinating.
yeah, I should definitely get a Blu-ray player. I got the DVDs on the shelf, but yeah, it's like, damn, I just don't get what the big deal is with the studios. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's a shame. It's a shame they treat their fans this way. Nem Zavine says, Kush, man. Ooh, Kush is always nice. There's Stream Elements bot. So that's what I was talking about, everybody. Check out Older Greg's channel. If you see these come up, check out the channel. These are very talented and worthy people. And I want to shout out also, you'll see a link pop up for Suzanne Eckstein. She's doing a GoFundMe fundraiser type thing because she is in need help. She's in need of help. She's a single grandmother taking care of her grandson. So if you're able to, watch for that link to pop up and help her any way you can. She's very sweet and highly appreciative of it. Lemon Pie says, but ruling is indeed supposed to be a self sacrifice, isn't it? But that depends on your point of view. I think if you're an honest ruler and you give up everything for your subjects, sure. But show me an honest ruler who gives up everything for their subjects rather than the other way around. And there's Suzanne. Hello, Pop, says Suzanne. Hello, Suzanne. So good to see you. And Lemon Pie says Suzanne, and applause. And Suzanne says, Lemon Pie, hiya. And Suzanne says, Nemesis, hello. And PBP says, hey, Suzanne. And Jill hails, says Suzanne. Suzanne Eckstein says, Gorilla, hello. He's out there listening somewhere and driving. And Suzanne says, Basil, hello. And PBP, hello, says Suzanne. And also LDG, hello, says Suzanne. And Suzanne also says hello to Mad Scientist. And Suzanne says, Jill is the GOAT. Right? We mean that in the good way. The good way. Lemon Pie is a space seed which tackled chronic fatigue syndrome. Well, yeah, you're right about that. Gorilla's random thoughts. Now that I think about it, I bet you he didn't get any credit in The Wrath of Khan, did he? I mean, because obviously he got a little bit of story credit for Space Seed, but I think by the time he came out with Wrath of Khan, I think they just totally forgot about him. And I'm talking about the writer, that is. Gorilla's random thought says, I'm calling for this kind of government. I will quit my job and sell my kids so that we can start sacrificing people. All right.
Oh, oh,
That always
jeez.
works. That'll
Okay.
curb the population and put everybody in order.
Oh God.
Nemesis says hello, Suzanne. And Gorilla says, hey, Suzanne. And hello to Resolute Germ. Resolute Germ says hello. Glad you could join
Hey,
us,
Jerem.
Resolute Germ. And Suzanne says, Germ, hello. And my good friend Nemesis of Eden says, Space Seed sounds dirty. You should use the term panspermia instead. Oh, yeah, that sounds a lot better. Wait,
Oh, brother.
Resident Germ says, sorry, guys, I find it difficult to laugh and not cough, so I'm trying not to cough because I enjoy laughing. And Lemon Pie says, hey, Germ. And Resolute says, hi, Lemon. And Gorilla says, I played a lot of clips and won every claim except one I worded wrong.
Yeah, well, I
Yes,
remember I
Gorilla
was
has
on
good luck
the
with that.
I was
Go
on the
ahead.
last Walton stream with Gorilla, and I guess it got taken down for like a day or something, and then it got back up again. Like, it wasn't too long. It was like probably less than a day, and it was back up. So it's just weird when they do that. shit. Like I don't get it really. I really
That's like
don't.
what happened to Jill's. They pulled it, and they gave it back, and they pulled it. It's like the yo-yo. It's like you never know what to expect.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
removed the video, and that still wasn't good enough for them. So whatever.
It'd be nice
So
if they
they
were
took.
very, very specific. Hey, we don't like this one scene here. Please remove it. Sometimes YouTube will do that, but a lot of times they won't tell you exactly what they have problems with, and you're left scratching your head like, okay, what do I remove? I don't know. I don't want to remove the wrong thing. That's kind
Well,
of the thing I'm
basically,
dealing with
they
now.
claimed 70% of the video. So I'm
Seventy
just gonna,
percent.
I'm just, I'm
Oh,
just gonna have to re-edit and take the video out and re-upload it.
Jeez, if you got to take that much out, it's almost not worth it, Jill. Like that's a lot, 70%. Man,
No, the whole review is gone
that's nuts.
if I did it. But
yeah, that's practically everything except for hello and goodbye. Right.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's
Suzanne says,
harsh.
check out
That's
Jill's
harsh.
channel, and Suzanne so graciously drops a
Hey,
link to
Suzanne.
Antiderivative Jill's channel. Yes, I highly recommend it. And we will be on there tomorrow morning with another Star Trek TOS episode. Assignment Earth, I believe. Is that correct, Jill?
Yes, the end of season 2.
Yep. So another
Oh, and
milestone. We made it through 2 seasons. We're at the end of season 2. Excellent. And
then
we're covering those in broadcast order, by the way. So if you're scratching your head, that's the reason why Assignment Earth is the last episode of season 2.
I think it's in I'm going in production order, but in broadcast,
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I
Assignment
meant.
Earth
Yeah.
is
There you go.
the last one.
All right.
both instances.
So Assignment Earth is the last in production and in broadcast order.
I think so. I think this is one of the times where they line up.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think
Thank you.
I think sometimes towards the end of the season that the broadcast and production numbers would kind of match up towards the end of a season. It seems, from what I've noticed over the years. So yeah, that makes sense actually.
Maybe they're running out of time, possibly.
Yeah, I guess
Greetings
it
from
got.
the edge of. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it just got to the point where towards the end of the season they were just just doing those last few episodes just to fill up the schedule to get the season over with. So
They could have been the ones that had the most post production work needed as well. Maybe
yeah,
they're like finishing up post production, special effects, and stuff like that.
could be. Yeah.
Edge of Time says, greetings from the Edge of Time. Good to see you, Edge of Time. And Resolute Germ says, Prime Day start tomorrow, and DVD box sets are always great pickups these days. Get BTAS and Flintstones last. Oh, I got BTAS and the Flintstones last year for real cheap. BTAS, help me out, guys. BTAS.
Yeah, I'm lost on that one.
I'm sure it's something we all go home and be like,
Is
oh
it
yeah,
Batman? The Batman
the
the
animated series. Okay,
Oh, okay.
gotcha. All right.
Yeah, that would fit with the Flintstones because they're both cartoons, right? So yeah.
Yes. And Suzanne says, check out Gorilla's channel. So there's a link for the Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Thank you, Suzanne. Lemon Pie says Suzanne's fundraiser, and Lemon Pie so kindly drops a link there to that's the fundraiser I was mentioning earlier for Suzanne. Please help her out if you're able to. Stop by and see Nemesis channel. Says Suzanne. Thank you, Suzanne. And hello, Herc130. Good to see you, Herc. Herc says, hello, pop culture curator. Yeah, looks like a
Hi,
good
Herc.
turnout tonight.
Hi there,
And
Herc.
Suzanne says, Herc, hello. And Herc says, hi, Suzanne and Lemon Pie. And Suzanne says, Edge of Time, hello. Herc130 says, hey, Nemesis of Eden. And Lemon Pie says, Pop, I've never seen Stream Elements fire out Suzanne's fundraiser. Maybe double check it later sometime. Am I wrong? Let me know if it's not, and I will check. I need to give a note to myself in Twitter so that I remember after the stream. I thought I added it, but I could have done something incorrectly. I may have missed a step. Suzanne Exney says, take a look at PvP channel, and there's a link to PvPs.
Oh, thank you.
And Suzanne says, thanks, Lemon Pie. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Lemon Pie, for bringing that to my attention. Hookworm30 says, there's Jill. Hello. And Lemon Pie says, Herc. We'll
Hi,
get
Herc.
through these. I want to make sure I do read out all the chats. I want to shout out everybody. And thank you, Suzanne, for dropping a link to Resolute Germ channel. Thanks, Suzanne, says Resolute Germ. And Nemesis says, Jill can make that video into a short if it's 70% shorter. Yeah, you're right about that. That's sad. Nims of Eden says, hey there, at Herc 130. And Nims of Eden says, thanks, Suzanne. I assume, Lemon Pie says, I assume Jill Vulcan death grips anyone who doesn't sub to her. Yep.
That would be a lot of
Beware.
people.
Right. Resident
I gotta
Germ
get
says,
busy.
Batman. So, yes, it was Batman the animated series. And Herc 130 says, I forgot to say hi to PvP. Hi, PvP.
No, hi, Herc.
And Basil says, I have to admit, Lost in Space was a pretty good show for its time. It could be fun to see a similar series with today's technology. I would love it. If they wouldn't make it so dire, dismal, and depressing like the new shows are, but I just don't think so. I don't think they could have the positive outlook, the humor. They definitely would not show the family component anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just
if they
it would be
if they
nice.
had if they had writers that were as good as the writers back then, I mean, it would be something worthwhile probably. But it's just like that's the big flaw with modern entertainment. To me, it seems like the writing has just gone down the drain, basically.
Well, it's like they're hiring a narcissist right out of college who have no life experience, and they
Yeah,
seem to be very bitter, and they want to write the characters like themselves because they've never picked up a
yeah.
book and read it before.
You know what I don't get is how somebody that's like in their 20s, just out of college, can be bitter because they haven't lived long enough to be bitter. I mean, if you want to be bitter, wait till you get in your mid 60s like I am, with
Well,
some really tough knocks along the way, right? Then you got a excuse to be bitter, right? Which I'm really not because I try and stay positive. But you know, I mean, how somebody that's like 25 can be bitter about anything, it just seems weird to me because
what they don't
you
realize
know
is they are the ones that are bitter, not the world around them. So that's why
exactly.
to them everything seems bitter.
They
Right.
want to blame people like me, the old people, for like ruining the world for them, which is bullshit, of course. But that's just the way it seems to be, right? So
Which is
it's like
sad.
blame the boomers. The boomers created all the evil in the world. It's like, yeah, right. You
Yeah,
know,
it's the boomers that fought and defended our country, and without the boomers, we'd have no country. They seem
yeah,
to forget that.
yeah. And the boomers who raised families in the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s, and everything was much, much more positive back in those decades than it is now. So, yeah, it's all the boomers' fault. Sure, sure.
Yeah. Basil
It's
says, hello,
pretty
Agent
crazy.
Time. Welcome to Lost in Space. And it's smiling. It's hard to read
Emojis.
exactly what that is. I know I'm on StreamYard, so it's hard to exactly see every emoji. I apologize for that. Basil Battle Dragon says, danger, Will Robinson. There'll be a gorilla nearby with arms waving wildly. Hopefully, I'm hoping Gorilla can make it tonight. And if you want the gorilla with arms waving wildly, check out our Gilligan's Island stream this Wednesday. You will not be disappointed.
Hmm.
So, without further ado, I'm going to bring our slides up front and center. And like I said, once again, this is due to the hard work and diligence and talent of Antiderivative Jill. So, I once again I want to thank her for everything she's done to prepare for tonight. And so, of course, we get our recap from last week, which usually starts with the sentence last week, as you recall. So we had Dr. Smith, Will, and the robot out searching for truffles. And as we know, that something is amiss and something's going to happen, which usually is what happens, especially when you have those three involved. And as you can see, the way the series is evolving, there's more and more that it's focused on this trio of Dr. Smith, Will, and the robot, which is it's going to be a reoccurring theme as you're going to see more and more throughout the series. Which is sad because I like to see the rest of the cast. I like to see the rest, them do things and get screen time and actually get things to say. But like I said, it's inevitable. We're going to see less and less of them. But don't worry, they were not cheated per se because they were all still paid the same. It didn't matter if they had one line or 100 lines; they were still paid the same paycheck. So they really didn't complain.
Yeah, I suppose if you had like, you know, half a page of dialogue for the whole week to learn, you probably wouldn't mind being in the background if you were getting paid well. So yeah, I could see where the cast wouldn't be too worried about it, actually.
Right. Resolute Germ says they're bitter because they were raised believing the world was all sunshine and unicorn farts, and they can't handle it not being true. Yeah, it's right. They're constantly being told you're special. You're special. Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, you win the award. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's like they get the participation award for just breathing, right?
Uh-huh. I was teaching back in the 90s, 2000s,
Oh
and
man.
we talked about it then that this is what would happen. We the teachers, we all knew this is what was going to happen. That was a generation where they started getting an award for everything. They started graduating from every single grade. Oh, you graduate first grade, you graduate second grade, and where they got rid of multicultural festivals, they got rid of competition, winning prizes. All that was out the window because everybody gets to win a prize, which means nobody wins a prize.
Well, the thing is
And we
too,
knew this was going to happen.
there's
Yeah,
no
when
way.
I was a kid, I just kind of tossed away the participation certificates. I'm like, what is this for? This is nothing. I did
I
nothing. And I got a paper that says I did nothing. All right.
Congratulations, you've done nothing.
yeah, I remember back in the '70s, we had the government had some kind of competition where kids could earn like a little shoulder patch. There was like a bronze one and a silver one and a gold one, and you'd have to do some actual athletic stuff. I remember I had to run a race to try and win it, and I did get it just in time to win the bronze one, right? But then they ran out of patches, so I never did get my patch. So I was like, well,
Oh,
fuck this.
I'm gonna go burn down a building.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that kind of made me realize life is not fair. Even if you actually do earn something, you don't always get rewarded for it. So it was like, yeah, but it was a good lesson to learn, I gotta say.
Right. Also, always expect to be disappointed. That way, you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have your hopes set too high, it's pretty hard to get, disappointed about shit. So yeah.
Right. And especially me, I had bad luck. My friend, anybody who knows me will tell you. Yeah, bad luck was written around me, so I've learned to not have high expectations.
Yeah, my
Basil
luck
says
could be pretty bad too. Yeah.
there's plenty to be bitter about, folks. Plenty. But it's worth the effort to find the joy in life. Remember, there is much more good in the world than you think. Well,
I
there is, but
agree.
unfortunately, the good is being suppressed by the bad. Right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So the people that are running the country are the worst, the loudest, and the most destructive. Unfortunately.
Thing is, though, if you
Resi-
don't make the effort to find the good in life, then life's not worth living at all, right? So I always try to look on the positive side. Even sometimes I should know better, but it's like I still try and be positive. So.
I agree completely. Resident Germ says a boy, an old guy, and a tin can. Yeah, that's not creepy at all. Suzanne Eckstein. Remember now, times have changed. I mean, that's like saying that. What's his name? Uh, Now my mind draws a blank. Tom Sawyer, and that's like saying Tom Sawyer and all of them are written around pedophilia. They weren't, but people now, through their skewed point of views, will say that they are, and that's why those are the books. Some of the books are trying to ban. So here's where we have Dr. Smith and Will happen to come across what looks like a royal crown. Sorry, Pop, I'm dealing with news of the family in Israel. I will pop in and out. So sorry to hear that, Suzanne. Good luck with that. That is terrible what's going on over there right now.
I'm
Yeah, I
so
heard a
sorry,
bit
That says,
today.
Susan.
Yeah, I heard a bit today. It sounds like really bad stuff going on over there. So.
it is. It's horrible. Basil says if you're bitter or stressed about something, tune into a pop stream and have fun with Lost in Space, Gillian's Island, and Run Me Some Love. Absolutely. I guarantee you I'll cheer you up. There's a lot worse things out there other than my stream. Maybe the sound of my voice, but not necessarily the stream. Edge of Times is manipulate others for their own benefit and profit. Yeah, that does seem to be very effective, doesn't it, Edge of Time? And Basil Battle Dragon says, laugh a little. It's good for you. Yes, it is. Definitely. Laughter is the best medicine. Resolute Germ says, we use those trophies for BB gun practice. Edge of Time, another unissued merit badge. And Lemon Pie says, Suzanne O'Meara, I hope they are all okay. Yeah, absolutely. Our wishes are with you, Suzanne. And our prayers. Best wishes for you, Suzanne. I'm offering, this is Basil speaking. Best wishes for you, Suzanne. I'm offering a prayer for a quick end to this mess, along with the Ukraine Russia fiasco. Be safe, Suzanne. If banks would stop profiting off war, there would be no war. All wars were started by banks. Just keep that in mind. Edge of Time says, you drop this, signifying the crown. And Basil's, yeah, life's a bitch at times, but those streams are fun. Yeah, that's why we come here to enjoy ourselves and forget about some of the bad things in life. So Dr. Smith, Will, and the robot come across this crown, and of course, Dr. Smith is immediately fascinated and notices all the jewels that are inside the crown. And of course, he can't resist, and he puts on the helmet, and of course, is hit by a bolt of lightning, and he panics. For a moment, he's having trouble removing it, and he's screaming for help. Because now, remember, now he sent the robot Will ahead so that he could try to sneak and put the crown on, which now he's of course regretting.
Yeah, of course, Smith being Smith, he's got to put the damn thing on his head without even thinking twice about maybe this is not a good idea because it's some alien, crown that who knows what its the effect is going to be when he places it on his head. But Smith being Smith goes for it anyway.
And Will even tells him, he says, "Look, you warned me about it, and then you do it pretty much." So it's like, yeah. And then of
Yeah, that
course
is
I'm
the
sure
main theme of this episode is no one questioning anything.
exactly like
That becomes quite a theme with Smith as the series progresses, too, Jill. He never questions much of anything.
so we have
Uh,
Will decides to put on the crown, and as he does, uh, we hear trumpets playing, and then a band, and then we have these people appear, aliens, and they are led by Liam Sullivan, and he's the one I told you may recommend him from Star Trek TOS.
yeah,
He did,
what was he in? He's very familiar looking.
He
then I
played Parman. He played Parman in Plato's Stepchildren.
yes.
Oh, yes, exactly. I got it now. Yeah, very, very familiar face for sure.
So now he's saying that perhaps the crown was meant for Will Robinson. And by the way, Jill, the watermarks are pretty noticeable. If
Great.
you hadn't,
I'm
yeah,
glad.
if you hadn't mentioned them, I wouldn't even have said anything. I wouldn't even have noticed. So you did a great job.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. The watermarks are great. Like I barely noticed them at first. So very, very, very well done, Jill. Good stuff.
Yeah, good to hear. I'm gonna use the same ones tomorrow.
Yeah, they look great. I don't have a problem with them at all. So that's awesome.
Perfect. So here's where Will. They seem to say that Will that maybe perhaps the crown was not for Smith, and that's why Smith got the reaction that he did. But perhaps it is for Will. Will seems to be getting a much more positive reaction from not only the crown but also from these people. And of course, as soon as Dr. Smith hears this, he's explaining to them, of course, stretching the truth immensely on how he's Will Robinson's best friend, guide, consort, and so on and so on and everything else. Because of course he wants to ride the coat waves of anything that Will Robinson gets. And Will Robinson explains that he does not want to accept the honor. He wants to stay back with his family. And then Smith, of course, speaking for Will Robinson, says, "Yes, you do. You want the honor. Take your family with you." Of course, all Will's thinking about, or all Dr. Smith is thinking about, perhaps, is a way to get them to Earth. Boy, I got me caught up in the chat. I'm on my own with the chat tonight, guys. So you're going to see points where I might run a little behind. I don't have my good friend Gorilla here helping me. Basil says, "Yes, Gorilla, it's a very, very bad situation." And Germ says, "No, there will always be war. The key is to not let it get you down too much." Suzanne Eckstein says, "Lemon Pie, they are hiding in a bomb shelter. My family is a huge target because they run a program that brings Jews home to Israel." Oh, that's terrible.
No.
God, it sounds like we're talking about World War II all over again. Rose Renaissance says, "It's a trap." And Jim says, "Hello, hello, Jim. So good to see you." And Basil says, "If everybody would take on a joint, there would be no need for wars." That I agree, right? If they were made to sit and smoke a joint amongst them and share it with each other, I absolutely 100% agree. "Hi, Jim," says Resolute Germ. And Jim drops a link to it. Let me get to, there we go. Resolute Germ says, "Watermark isn't even visible watching on my phone." And "Hey, Jim," says Herc. And Jim says, "Hey, Herc 130." Okay. So now I'm caught up on the chat, fortunately. Now let me hide it. So here's where this guy is telling Dr. Smith that basically, if he was to be at Will Robinson's side as king, that's a lot to deal with. And of course, Dr. Smith is more than there he is. And of course, he's more than willing to accept any sort of burdens or royalties that come with it.
What they
And
have
then,
done if Will would have been like, yeah, I'll be your king for you. Let's go.
right, I'll be your king. And Will could have said that. He said, I'll be your king if you take my parents and take us back to Earth. But then that would be giving up the throne, I guess. So I guess Will kind of knows that they probably have no plans on returning him to Earth.
Exactly.
Because,
Well, also that would be the end of the series. So I
right,
guess the
not to
writers
mention
aren't going to
that,
do that.
right. And like what was mentioned last night in the stream, or no, I guess it was Saturday night in the stream, I'm basically covering Lost in Space and Gilligan's Island, which is the same show. If they get rescued,
More
it's
or
going to be the
less.
end of it.
Yeah, except Smith is the Gilligan. One is good natured, one isn't.
Yes, I would say so. I agree. So now we get the reveal of our alien of the week, which is going to look a lot like Alien of next week. And we got our opening credits. And we're going to get our opening title, of course, which is going to be His Majesty Smith. Harry Harris returned to the series for his second directing assignment following The Keeper Part 2. Liam Sullivan was 42 when he played Nexus. His career spanned nearly 150 TV and film appearances. Sullivan took 2 trips into the Twilight Zone, including The Silence. Do you guys remember the Silence episode of the Twilight Zone? Because that also
Mm,
starred Jonathan Harris.
yeah, I forget that one. It's been
Wait.
That
way
was
too
the
long.
Oh,
that was the episode. I'll remind you guys because I'm a big Twilight Zone fan. Liam Sullivan, the guy here who plays the guy who bestows Will with the crown,
Nexus.
Nexus. Thank you. That was the episode where a bunch of rich men were sitting around a club talking, and they bet him that he couldn't shut up for a year and not talk for a year, and they put him in a glass booth to keep an eye on him. And Dr. Smith was also in that episode, Jonathan Harris. And then after a year, he made it to the end of the episode, but then they found out at a drastic price. So I'm not going to give away even Twilight Zone. I won't give it away. But yes, he was definitely in that.
Awesome.
I do remember that one now, and I won't give it away either. But it was quite a shocking ending. Yes.
Right, and you will see Jonathan Harris playing a straight role in it.
Wow.
It's basically which his talkative character accepts a bet that he can go a year without speaking to ensure winning the bet. Jonathan Harris played a part in that episode. Irwin Allen had previously cast Sullivan in an episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea called Leviathan. Sullivan's appearance there is noteworthy among other reasons because he played a giant in fright makeup and was placed into the green tank to wrestle with the Seaview miniature. And our master of makeup and creature effects, Paul Zesepnovich, revealed to interviewer Mike Clark that Sullivan performed the underwater stunt without a double. In order to do so, the crew had to weigh down his clothes so he wouldn't float upwards. They lowered the level of the tank water to just a few inches above Sullivan's head in case anything went wrong. How they got him here is unknown, Clark commented. I've never heard of a more difficult guest role. Okay. And I'm looking here. The guy who played the hairy monster that we saw revealed there at the beginning was also in 2 episodes of Twilight Zone, including Elegy, in which he was one of 3 astronauts who land on Earth-like planet where they find a town of people who appear to be frozen in time. Irwin Allen liked Hagen and cast him in 4 episodes of Time Tunnel, 2 for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and 9 for Land of the Giants, where he played the recurring role of Inspector Dobbs Kobik.
Wow. That's a lot.
An effort was made to obtain permission to use the song Hi Ho from Walt Disney Productions' 1937 animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so that Daddy Zach could sing it whenever marching off to work. To save money, however, Irwin Allen settled for a public domain folk song from an unknown writer dating back to the 19th century. I've been working on the railroad.
That's a lot easier to do that than deal with Disney at any stage.
Well, and back in the 60s, Disney wasn't as greedy as they are now. Now it would be, I can imagine what they would charge for that. But right, the fact that it was Disney, and this was the '60s. Disney was big by then,
They were.
Oh yeah,
and so
Disney were huge back in the '60s. When I was a kid, I Disney films were hitting the theaters where I saw like Mary Poppins and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and yeah, I can remember seeing those on the big screen. And Disney was fantastic back then when they were doing high quality, entertainment back then, not garbage, right? So yeah.
and I'm guilty. I was around then, but I did not like childish movies. I did not like Bambi. I didn't like Mary Poppins.
Mary
But
Poppins was a
I
great
like
film.
voice. I like the. I know, believe it's popular. I know it has a following. A lot of people like to sing and dance to it, but I don't know why I was not into the kid movies and the singing and dancing. I like the Voyage to the Bottom, or not Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, but 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I liked all
Oh,
the mature
20,000, yeah,
movies.
20,000 Leagues is a great film. Like that was
Right.
really cool. Kirk
I
Douglas,
like
that was awesome.
it was when they were too childish. It just I don't know. Even though I was a kid at the time, I just like Bambi. I was bored to tears. Mary
Hmm.
Poppins, bored, 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 bored.
Huh.
But that's
Oh
that,
well.
that's my. I know those are popular, so I don't want to knock up for anybody that likes them.
No, I just had a different reaction. That's all. Like I enjoyed all the films you mentioned. So yeah,
Which is fine. Like I said, I know they were popular.
yeah. No, they were huge.
So, did anybody recognize the spaceship?
I think it was in an earlier episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, it belonged to the keeper.
Okay.
That makes
Right,
sense.
right. So, before, if you guys remember, when they showed, because by the way, Doctor Smith, under the cover of darkness, decides to go back and have a secretive talk with Nexus. And as he approaches, you could see that was basically the same ship as we saw before in the Keeper Part One and Two with Michael Rennie. But in that one, it
Just
was
on the outside.
on the outside and just the door of it. Because when they showed the entire ship, it was a matte painting. But now what they did is to kind of dress it up a little bit. We get the same door, but we have rocks all around it. So I'm guessing they're trying to make it look like it appeared inside of a rock. But I don't think they want us to question it that much. I don't think that we're supposed to
I
go into
didn't.
that much
I didn't even
detail.
know it was a matte painting. That's crazy.
Yes, not in here, but in the Keeper episode, because they decided that was cheaper than trying to build a model of that size. So they just went with the matte painting.
Hmm.
So here's where
Oh
Doctor
no.
Smith is basically trying to con the guy, trying to con the con man. So Doctor Smith is trying to finagle and worm his way into being His Majesty Smith, not knowing that basically that's the trap that they have set for him. So he's walking right into it wholeheartedly. And he says, "I assure you will be counted King Andronica." And of course, uh, Smith has a little hesitation, and he asks them if there's any strings attached. And of course, the guy's going to tell him no. You always trust the bad guy, right? So he immediately says, "I hope I may call you Your Majesty," and of course, which sends Doctor Smith into total elation and euphoria when he realizes that he's King Smith the First. And another repeating theme in the show is where we have Will explaining to the family what's going on, and they don't believe him, but apparently Dad does. So that way they're a little prepared for the visitor they're going to have coming up here soon. And Dawn agrees with him. Dawn comes from downstairs and says that Smith's not in his quarters. And then we get the alert from the robot saying that an alien device is what the robot says. Instead of saying an alien is approaching, he says, I believe he says alien device, which gives us a little hint to what's going to happen in a future scene. And now we have Nexus here, and he basically invites them for the coronation of His Majesty Smith for the next day. And he tells them they are ordered and they have to be there. The final audience of His Majesty Zachary Smith. That doesn't sound very encouraging. Before he leaves his place to assume his royal duties as King of Andronica. And Professor Robinson speaks for the family and says, you could tell His Majesty Smith that we will be there. And there's where you get a little better look at the entrance to the ship, which, like I said, previously belonged to the Keeper. And Dr. Smith, of course, is being coddled and well taken care of. Funny how they have grapes there just like here. So, oh well, huh?
Well, yeah. Also, truffles.
Truffles, right?
Yeah, I wondered about that when they were hunting truffles. Like, really, they have truffles on an alien planet thousands of light years away from Earth? Yeah, sure, whatever. I'll go with it, but it's lost in space, right? So,
And speaking for myself, I've never had a truffle. I know they're very valuable and expensive. People make their careers based on hunting them down.
yeah, I've
So,
never had one either, actually.
Same. Wow, we're a panel of non-truffle eaters.
non
We're
truffle eaters.
non-trufflers.
Yeah, if there's any truffle eaters out there in the chat, please chime in. Let us know. Do they taste good? Are they sweet? I mean, are they? I don't know. I have absolutely no. They come out of the ground. I don't know. I keep thinking of mushrooms, but I know they're not
Oh, I
mushrooms.
think don't they have like pigs that are trained to sniff them out underground? And
Yes,
yeah,
True.
so it sounds weird. I think there's some kind of fungus, right? I believe like mushrooms.
right. And if you're interested more, see the movie Pig starring Nicolas Cage, that's the plot of the movie. He has pigs that are trained to sniff out truffles, and somebody kills
Oh
his pig.
God. Oh
So it's
brother.
kind of like John Wick, except with Nicolas Cage.
Really? That's hilarious. I need to see that.
That sounds pretty entertaining. Actually, Nicolas Cage has some movies that are so damn weird they're definitely worth seeing.
Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
Hey, Herc.
Uh,
I think I showed this one here. Let me caught up here. Hail Germ, says Jim. And Basil says, Will Robinson was playing it smart. Smith is crazy. Yes, he is. Hail Jim, says Lemon Pie. And Jim says, Hail Lemon. Taylor Swift greater than Disney Star Wars. Hey, hello. And Jill, can you read
Matt
that for
G.
us?
Hey, Matt G.
And we have the president of the Jill
president of the
Antiderivative Jill fan club.
yes, the president of the fan club.
Good to see you, Taylor Swift.
Hey, by the way, is there any perks to join the fan club, Jill? Like, do you get a signed autograph picture or some kind of swag? Like,
I haven't. I
Jill's
haven't.
still working. Actually, Jill's still
Wait,
working
but
on that,
why
right,
would
Jill?
I have
For your
anything about the
channel.
fan club? That's a question for Matt G, actually.
okay,
But yes, that's right. I should work on memberships for my channel. I haven't got
Right.
around to it yet.
Jill was just
you
recently
definitely should.
monetized, so she can create memberships for her channel. Or if you pay monthly fees, you can have a certain title and certain, like they said, swag or whatever. Everybody comes up with something different. So yeah, maybe in the future here we'll have it where we can sub to Jill's channel and we'll get surprises.
That'd be cool.
Basil says, "Yo, Jim." Hail, Basil, says Jim. And Edge of Time says, Team Ginger for life. Oh, I agree there. Hail, Edge, says Jim. And Basil says, oh, Pop Bambi and Mary Poppins was cool. I was just bored. I'm sorry. Like I said, guilty as
Yeah,
charged.
I agree. Those were great movies.
I know. They're classics. I don't know. It's just, I will
Well,
admit.
and they had adult morals and themes in them, even though they were for children.
I know. And I admit I did like Bedknobs and Broomsticks because at least we got half live action. I may not have liked it if it was all animated.
Well, Mary Poppins was live action, though, Pop.
I know, but the kids got on my nerves. I mean, even back then, those kids got on my nerves.
But they were like real kids, not like fake kids, right? So they should have been annoying because they were like real kids.
And they were rich too, so they had that snotty attitude,
Well, yeah, but the whole family kind of did, right? So
which made them unlikable, in my opinion.
yeah,
That is.
I don't know. I thought
I did like
fun.
I did like the Simpsons parody episode of Mary Poppins, so I thought that was enjoyable. And Taylor Swift says, "Person waving, turquoise person waving." Sorry, I have to read it out literally there. And Basil says, "All good, Pop. Everybody has an opinion of the movies they like and don't like."
Well, that's it. It doesn't really matter as long as we can agree to disagree. It's cool.
Yep. Yeah. See, like I was more into the the Kurt Russell movies. The Strongest Man in the World. That now you see him, now you don't. I was more into those. But I was a kid watching Perry Mason, so that's another thing too. That's why if it was too childish, I just I don't know. Basil, but
Yeah,
I would come home from elementary school and watch Perry Mason. I'm not kidding.
There's
loved
probably
it.
not too many kids that were into Perry Mason back in the day, so yeah, that's a bit unusual.
Right. Basil says, danger, Dr. Smith. And Resolute Germs says, troubles are unremarkable. I'm not surprised, but I know people pay a lot of money for them. And
Oh, they
Basil says,
cost a
yeah,
fortune, apparently. Yeah.
yep. I've never had truffles either, or truffle oil. I have no idea how they taste. I see people use truffles on the Food Channel, but that's as close as I get. Yeah, same here. I've seen them use them. And Basil says, hey, Lemon Pie, hi, Lemon, how are you? And Jim says, what is Jill viewing tomorrow?
Assignment Earth.
Yes, our backdoor pilot. And it's got the beautiful Terry Garr in it.
Yeah, Terry Garr was pretty cute in that episode. I gotta say, she was pretty hot back then.
You know she's suffering from MS right now, right?
Yeah, well,
It's
we get
Wheelchair and
old, and
everything. It's really sad.
yeah, well, people get old and they have all these illnesses, right? So
Well, I
it's
know,
just
but
a fact of life.
she got MS at a relatively young age, so it's sad.
That does
Yeah,
happen at times. So unfortunately, yeah.
it is. It's terrible. Basil says, Ola Greg is Mia. I sent him a message to the great sphere of the space-time continuum to remind him Lost in Space is alive. Well, thank you for that, Basil. Lemon Pie says, I've had truffle oil on fries. Interesting. Lemon Pie says, howdy, Basil. Okay, so now we're ready to continue. I think I'm all caught up on the chat. So now we have our celebration where I should say His Majesty Smith seems to be having a grand old time, having everybody bow down to him and be his servants. And as we have learned that if anything's too good to be true, it usually is, especially on Lost in Space. So suddenly, all these people stop moving, and everybody's frozen. And Dr. Smith is confused, doesn't understand what's going on, and now his alarm bells are going off, and he's worried. So he's panicking. And now we're going to get the reveal of we will here soon, of our monster in the week. And we find out monster of the week, and that all these people are actually being controlled, and that and we get the term android, not robot.
Yeah.
So I like that we got the term android before Star Trek, even though it was around in literature and movies before then. I'm glad we got it before Star Trek. So now we get the great reveal of the monster of the week. And this is the one I said, this is the other guy that was also in 2 Twilight Zone episodes under all that makeup there.
Yeah, we get this very furry wolfman looking dude. Like, it's kind of grotesque, actually.
And of course, you can see it's sort of kind of xenophobic because Dr. Smith basing this guy and judging him by his appearances does not want to go to Andronica anymore. Because so he even asked the guy, does everybody on Andronica look like you? And the guy says yes.
Well, he is kind of hairy, you got to admit.
I would think, well, as long as I'm a king, that's okay. But not when he gets to the part where he tells Smith he's going to be sacrificed.
Oh, that's not good.
And this is where the alien also explains to him that all those people that he was just with are not actual people, they're androids, and that they're under his control, and that he makes androids. He can produce them. So that's kind of like what we were hinting at earlier, where this is one of the first episodes where we get 2 Dr. Smiths. And Dr. Smith says, but I am still going to be a king. And he says, yes, for the festival of sacrifice. So
it's like, oh.
Take a look at those. Take a look at those tubes on either side of Smith. Very similar to what a little girl's made of. The table that they put Captain Kirk on and would spin that would make androids. So I would say this is probably more than a coincidence that table looks the same. I could be wrong, but it looks very similar. Right there, you can see on both sides there's a half a cylinder on each side, a clear plastic, and it's just like in what little girls are made of.
It is similar.
Well, that one is more like a circular kind of spinny thing.
Oh, yeah, and that one it does spin, and here it does not spin. But the design, for me, it looks very similar.
It could be just a coincidence, so,
But that's one of the weird things about this episode is that he says he makes androids, and then later on, the duplicate Smith is like, I'm human. Like, what?
And how's he going to know the difference, right? Because they actually mentioned that. How's the guy going to know who's different between the two of us? Well, all the guy has to do is deactivate him like he did the other androids, and you'll find out who's who, right? But I guess we're supposed to forget about that. This is Lost in Space, everybody. This isn't Robert Heinlein or Arthur C. Clarke or any of those. So be prepared.
Yeah, this is not from personally. I don't think this is one of the best episodes of season one. It's pretty mediocre at best. In my ratings.
And here's where the alien tells him that he's already been replaced. So he's showing that the family basically is happy. They don't really need him. They don't miss him. And I wonder, from what I can tell, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time in Lost in Space that we see a screen that has 16 by 9 orientation, widescreen, pretty much.
Oh,
Up to this
interesting.
point, everything was 4 by 3. Because I've
Wow.
also thought about like with Star Trek, with the original series, they knew enough back then. That the monitor or the viewing screen on the bridge of the Enterprise was a white screen. So that was years before we had widescreen televisions because we had
Oh
4
hell,
by 3
yeah.
televisions up until the 90s.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've actually still got one in the living room. It's ancient. It's an old Sony, but it still works well enough. So I've just kept it around for like a decade. But yeah.
Well, then if you do, if for any of you guys out there listening, I'll make this quick. It's a little off tangent. But if you have any of those old fashioned TVs that use the antenna signal that's called ATSC, which is over the air waves in order to pull in local TV stations, those are slowly dying out. Originally, the government made them a deal and they sold all the UHF, VHF stations to cell carriers like Verizon and Sprint. And then what they did is they gave them access to all the ATSC, which was a new broadcast standard at the time. And now they're realizing they're not making as much money off broadcast television as they are off streaming rights. So they basically lied, and now they're phasing out ATSC. So we're going to see it within our lifetime where you will not get any over-the-air channels anymore with an antenna on your television. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
I don't think we've had that for years up here in Canada. I think they phased it out like a
They
decade
weren't
ago.
supposed to. The original deal with the government was they were supposed to ATSC was supposed to replace it.
Yeah, I don't have rabbit ears or anything to pick up a signal anyway on my TV.
A lot
So
of people don't. I still keep up with the technology, so that's why it still fascinates me. So here we have where Dr. Smith, sorry, Professor Robinson, Don, and Will come to the rescue because let me explain a little bit what's going on here. Is the robot explained to them that Dr. Smith is not completely willing to go as a subject, as to be the king. So the robot explains to the Robinson family that there's something wrong going on, and that's what makes them decide to head out towards the ship and find out what's going on with Smith.
Well,
So
yeah,
that
basically, the robot is the only one questioning anything in the episode in terms of being suspicious of what the intentions of the aliens are.
yes, thank you for clarifying that. I know we had to kind of that group a lot of exposition there in the last couple of scenes, but that's what happened to everybody. So if you're wondering why the Robinsons are outside the spaceship, that's why. They've come to the rescue of Smith thanks to the warning by the robot. You can tell by the way that guy stands in that last still who the actor is. I mean, you can just see him right through that makeup. Anybody who's familiar with the Twilight Zone, because he also did a lot of things back in the 60s and 70s, including, if I may mention, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. But here's what we have where they tell the alien that they want to see Dr. Smith to make sure that he's happy. So, of course, what the alien does is sends out the duplicate Dr. Smith, and he has the actual Dr. Smith tied up. He had him gagged at one point, but now he's not. And of course, Dr. Smith is frustrated that the Robinsons do not see through the guys and that they seem to be satisfied that that is Dr. Smith. And not only that, but this supposed Dr. Smith is willing to go back with them. And he seems to be all too eager to go back with them, by the way. And he also lets them know that he's not going to be the king because he was not qualified for it. And they seem to be satisfied with that explanation for now. Except they notice that he doesn't know which direction the spaceship is in. And remember now, everybody, one of the first streams I covered that Irwin Allen drew a map of the area of where. Now remember, there's not a map of the soundstage where this was filmed, but it was a map of the area on the planet which they lived. And the Jupiter 2 was always on the left bottom of that map. So a lot of times when you see them head back to the ship in these episodes, that's why they always head stage left. All the action seems to happen on the right, and the spaceship is on the left. And now we have Dr. Smith say, "Oh, good heavens, half the day is gone." And of course, immediately he does not sound like Dr. Smith. So immediately he got up and he fixed everyone breakfast. And they all seem to be understandably surprised.
Yeah, even that, and he showed humility in the last scene where, oh, well, I wouldn't have been a good leader anyway. Something like that.
All right, which Smith would never do. He's like the definition of a narcissist in every way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So here we have this full table spread, and everyone's happy, and they seem to be content. And he's doting over them, and of course they are showing their surprise and their doubt. And I don't know if he already told them to call him Daddy Zach.
Not yet. But
Not
yeah,
yet.
that's coming up.
Right, and it
The
is
look on Will's face is a look of horror and confusion.
And here's where Dr. Smith says, "Well, the work has not started yet. I better run ahead and get started on that," which is something else he also wouldn't do.
The harder the work, the better the character.
Right.
That doesn't scare anybody.
Well, you can see right there, Will. I keep thinking Billy Mummy, but it's Will. Will's obviously doubting it and does not seem to like it, and that was the look on his face where he said when they told him to call him Daddy Zach. And tomorrow, of course, he's going to cook them eggs Benedict.
Yeah, so why not keep him around? This guy seems cool. He makes breakfast and everything.
I totally agree. Right. The only thing is that where's he going to sleep? I guess he could share quarters with Dr. Smith. I have a feeling they probably wouldn't get along very long.
Yeah, you just need bunk beds. They'll be the odd couple twins.
The odd couple twins that are always fighting. It actually would probably be with Dr. Smith constantly framing him and getting him in trouble is probably what it would be, honestly. Because he has a man of this Dr. Smith is a man of virtues, unlike the Dr. Smith that we all know.
And I understand it does take a lot out of production to make duplicates of only one actor, so it isn't really viable, but I would like it.
Who's your daddy?
It would make sense because the Robinsons care about everybody, and they wouldn't turn somebody out just because they're a twin.
Daddy Zach. That's kind of a little bit creepy. Daddy Zach. Oh my God.
Which we know that would be the last thing that Dr. Smith would allow them to call him.
Oh, exactly.
Because he seems to revere his name. He seems to think that it's worth a lot more than what other people think.
Yeah.
Especially dropping the doctor part.
Oh yeah, of course.
See, the robot here can detect that it's not Dr. Smith, but he can't exactly figure out why. If he were an android, he would know he's an android. So he doesn't figure that. So
that's true.
Logically, based on what oh goodness gracious, I got to be right back.
Oh.
And I want to explain here. Day 4, Wednesday, February 23rd. They filmed from 8 a.m. to 7:50 p.m. on stage 11, including the interior alien laboratory and the interior alien spacecraft, which we're looking at now. Kevin Hagen, who plays this guy right here, the fuzzy alien, said, "I had this great big wig on for that episode, and they accidentally set this thing on fire during the scene.
Oh,
We were during the shot, and the wig actually caught on fire."
Yikes. That sounds pretty frightening, actually.
Right. And Liam Sullivan told interviewer Flint Mitchell, everybody else knew who the worst characters and had been playing them parts long enough. I mean, you didn't have to tell Jonathan Harris how to do anything. All Harry really had to do was tell them where to stand and when to come in. With us guest players, he had a chance to spend more time to help us with mannerisms, with things that these bizarre people would do to give them some kind of trust. And he was very good at that, and he was very helpful at that. He had a sense of style, and he had a sense of knowing what was too much and what was not enough. He would give us a chance to try something, and if it worked, he'd use it, and if it wasn't, he'd say, can we heighten that a little or square that off a little? Something like that. I'd never played the role of a non human before. Nexus was an android, a sort of manufactured person. I was intrigued with a way to play a character that seemed to be human enough that he pulled Dr. Smith and the other people on the show. But it came out later that he was an android and he was a made up kind of character. The challenge was to find ways, either vocally or in physical movements, to indicate that he was not quite a mechanical man, but the audience would not be taken aback to discover later on that he was not a real living human being. Okay, and now we're back to.
I'm so sorry I missed all of that because that was the most important bit that you said. What was the gist of what you just said? Because that sounded like something that I had a big issue with this episode, with whatever you were talking about.
Well, there was a couple things during this scene here where they were shooting inside the alien spacecraft. The actor here with the wig, apparently at some point they accidentally caught it on fire. And
wow.
Right, and what they were saying in interviews was it was easy for the Jupiter 2 cast. I'll put them in the Robinsons and Dr. Smith. It was easy for them to play their roles because they had already been playing them long enough that they were comfortable. But for those people that were guest starring, they needed a little more guidance from the director. If they weren't going, sometimes if they were to go over the top, he would tell them to dial it down. And sometimes if they weren't doing enough, he would tell them to dial it up.
Yeah, but mostly I just need to know about the robot and versus is he a robot or is he a human part? Because the logic of the story says, he says he makes androids, so obviously the Smith duplicate has to be an android. But then the dialogue later in the episode contradicts this heavily, and the robot's inability to scan him to determine that he's an android is absent.
Yes. Unless they're trying to say that he's such a realistic android that he duplicates a human being in every way, and they don't bring that up.
No, they don't. So what did the book say about that part?
Now, this is Nexus. They interviewed the guy who played Nexus. He says, I've never played a role of a non-human before. Nexus was an android, a sort of a manufactured person. I was intrigued with a way to play a character that seemed to be human enough that fooled Dr. Smith and the other people on the show, but that it came out later there was an android and he was a made-up kind of character.
Oh, okay.
The challenge was to find ways, either vocally or in physical movements, to indicate that he was not quite a mechanical man, but the audience would not be taken aback to discover later on that he was not a real living human being.
Okay, great. Okay, so that one didn't address what I was concerned about yet. So maybe later. We'll see. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. I'm trying to see if there's anything else referring to this specific scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Harris said they didn't build too many sets, but they had the spaceship and all that other stuff, and the sets were big, and it took a long time to light them. Irwin would take up the whole stage with all this stuff, and you'd sit up on cranes. You'd get up on cranes, and he'd get up on cranes, those big Titan cranes, and shoot the whole thing. This is what he wanted. He wanted big scope, and it takes a long time to light. And some of the cameramen we had were very slow. And he had to find guys that would light it up a lot faster because some guys took forever and you'd just sit there. And then you'd come down, they'd say 8 pages a day keeps Irwin away. But you couldn't get 8 pages a day because it took too long to light and you couldn't say, hey, this guy's killing me. Well, what can I do? But he always came to the director and beat the hell out of him. He didn't want to hear about actor problems or anything else. It was always the director. And he always came down with an entourage. He had about 6 guys with him, and he would pin you in the corner and say, do you know what time it is? Do you know how many pages you've got? But Harris added the studio was pressuring him because his shows cost a lot of money. He had a lot of production going. He was keeping that whole studio going over there. And if it wasn't for him, that place would have closed down a long time at one time. But his things cost money. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because 20th Century Fox nearly went bankrupt due to the movie Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, they were struggling. They had to sell up a lot of equipment, a lot of studios, a lot of lots, props, wardrobe, everything. So what they're referring to is during this time, Irwin Allen's shows were the ones basically keeping 20th Century Fox afloat.
Well, Irwin Allen was a powerhouse in the '60s and early '70s, right? Because he had like what, four shows? He had
Yes,
Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Time
Time
Tunnel,
Tunnel,
and Land of the
Land of the
Giants, all going
Giants.
at once.
Yep.
So he was the powerhouse driving that studio, and his shows were popular too. That's the thing. As goofy and crazy as they were at times, they were very well loved shows that a lot of people, they did get good ratings. Because I remember as a kid, I watched all of those shows. So yeah, they were keeping the studio afloat basically.
Right. So it was like during the '60s, everywhere on television you saw Irwin Allen's name. And then
Oh,
in the
everywhere.
70s, he moved on, right? And then in the 70s, he moved on to theatrical features, starting with the Poseidon Adventure. And
Yeah.
then the dominating name on television at the 70s was Quinn Martin.
Oh, Quinn
Was
Martin. Yeah.
yes, who also made a lot of good shows. I mean, I love Quinn Martin. I love Barnaby Jones and
Oh,
Cannon,
Quinn
and
Martin's great.
yep.
Well, I
But
first
I
discovered
digress.
Quentin Martin with the Fugitive, which began I think in '64, right?
60s.
Like one of
Uh
his
huh.
early hits, and that went for four seasons. That was a huge show. I remember I think actually the finale of that show when he finally caught up to the one armed man that had murdered his wife. I think that was like the highest rated episode on TV for like a decade until
Right.
they got to the
Up until the
JR.
last, right, up until actually to be exact, it was up until the last episode of MASH, and then then Jr. Who shot Jr.
Yeah, but it was right up there with those classic episodes, right?
Yes.
Which had an enormous viewing audience. So yeah, and I also remember one of my favorite Quinn Martins was The Invaders from '67, '68 when it was on for like a year and a half. That
Yep.
was a fun show.
Yep. And so all this advanced technology and Dr. Smith hits him over the head with a base and knocks him out. You're never too advanced for the old bunk on the head.
Bonk, bonk,
So
bonk, bonk, bad kid.
so we have Dr. Smith in panic running back to the Jupiter 2. And this music during the scene, I always considered it the panic music. Because it goes da 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 da. You'd have to see the scene. But every time somebody's panicking or they're running for help, 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 it always plays the same music. And it got just like Star Trek. It got to where I recognized the same music over and over in these episodes, and I would always look forward to it.
Hmm.
Fantastic. Of course, it was John Williams, but I also had an entourage helping write a lot of the other music in the background. So here's the Robinsons realize, oh no, what is this? There's two Dr. Smiths. And here's where they did not want to pay for the song from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So instead, they picked I've Been Working on the Railroad, as I mentioned earlier, which is public domain at the time.
That's a pretty well known song, so I guess it makes sense. I remember that
Even
too.
right, even now, most people, I don't know about the newest generation, but most people have heard of that song in one fashion or another.
Oh yeah, I've heard it many times. Yeah.
I just don't know if kids play with nursery rhymes anymore like they used to do. Patty
Hmm.
cake, all that stuff, I think it's out the window. Sad to say.
Could be. Could be.
I taught them to my babies.
Well, I'm
That's
glad you
good.
did. Did you teach them marbles and that stuff too, Jill?
Maybe not marbles. The only marbles they had were those, those little construction sets. You can build the construction sets and the marbles fly around on them.
How about jacks?
No Jack.
No jacks.
I
That's
played
okay.
Jacks when I was a kid, though.
You were
I
probably the
played
last generation that did.
Yeah,
I
it
played
might have been.
marbles when I was a kid. I used to have a huge can full of marbles at one time. Boy, it'd probably be worth a fortune now if I still had them. But oh well.
Yeah, when I was a teacher, this is late '90s, early 2000. I was working at elementary school, and I introduced the kids to marbles. They had never heard of them. And jacks, I brought some to the school and introduced them. Next thing you know, they were all around the school. Everybody was playing them.
Oh, they're
One
great games. Yeah,
right,
great
one
games.
person complained because no, you can't take my marble because I lost. So next
Oh
thing you know,
fuck.
nobody could win marbles anymore. Next thing you know, marbles was gone.
Oh
I will
Jesus.
never forget that where they said, "Now you can't take somebody's marbles if you win." because they'll cry and they'll complain and they'll go to mommy. So
Well,
yeah,
that's a good
everybody
life
has.
lesson.
That was the whole point. I know. That's what
Yeah.
I said. That's what
You
I
don't
said. But
always
nope.
win every game you play. That's the life lesson of marbles.
Right, and by doing that, they ruined it.
Uh,
They ruined the game. They ruined
oh
jacks.
yeah.
They ruined marbles. They ruined everything.
Oh, I love playing marbles. Like when I was a kid, in elementary school back in the '60s, pretty much every kid was playing marbles during recess and whatnot. During the lunch hour, we'd all go out in the playground and play marbles and win marbles back and forth against each other, and it was great fun. I really loved playing marbles back in those days.
Well, it was also sorely needed for social skills. That's how a lot of kids met each other.
Oh yeah, you can hang out, with your friends or even kids you didn't know that well because you were, glued to playing the game together. So yeah, it was all good. Great fun.
Right? Nobody complained when they lost their marbles.
Back in those days.
No. Well, and then here's another difference between then and now. Is back then peer pressure was very powerful. It's a very powerful learning tool, and now it's not allowed. Now it's peer pressure is just not allowed. So that's why the kids are like they are. They're not allowed to be judged by other people. They're not allowed to compete. They're not allowed to lose.
I'm glad I
Oh
was a kid
well,
back
that's
in
a
the
different
60s.
point. So am I. There's a lot of things that I'm very grateful that we were able to learn back then that are
Yeah.
not being taught anymore.
There are a lot of things that were much better back in those days. Oh well.
So here we have a good split screen. I have to mention it looks really good,
Yeah, it looks
and
really
we
good.
have the two actors side by side, and this is where the Robinsons are deciding which one are they going to keep. And I love it because the
It's
uh,
crazy.
the android, the good doctor, this one, Doctor Smith with the helmet, is basically explaining all the bad elements of the other Doctor Smith, who cannot stand around to listen to this, of course. And
Like
this, and
I
of
thought.
course,
Oh my
go
god.
ahead, Jill.
No, I just don't think that this would happen in terms of like is Dr. Smith, I mean not Dr. Smith, Dr. Robinson playing with them, saying there's not enough room here for two Smiths. Like it
Well,
just doesn't make any sense logically to me.
well, they made room for Doctor Smith when he stowed away, right? There wasn't any room for him
Exactly. So
originally,
what what's the problem with another one?
right?
Maybe it
And
adds too much weight to the ship if they're going to ever blast off again.
I
Just a
thought about that
thought.
too. Well,
They could get rid of some equipment.
right. They can get rid of some shipless equipment. That's just it. Dr. Smith would always be looking over his shoulder, wondering when they're going to get rid of him.
Yeah, it's pretty funny actually.
But of course, the
Uh,
reality is, we all know how we're going to tell the next story next week with two Dr. Smiths, right? We got to reset
that's
at the end of
right.
the episode.
Exactly. That's the real reason.
Yeah, we need a real creepy, weird, unpleasant, grumpy, conniving Dr. Smith like we always do.
And I thought this was great too, where the two Dr. Smiths have that discussion. And because it gives us just a hint of what they may be thinking, but it doesn't give too much away. Or at least I thought so. That way we still got the surprise when we had the reveal at the end. So, and then
Yeah,
it makes you kind of miss the good Doctor Smith, I guess you could say, the guy with the helmet. That's the only way we can tell him apart is he has the helmet. Other than that, the clothes are identical, and the mannerisms obviously. But that's the reason why he's wearing that hat is so we can tell the difference for us, the audience.
What was he doing here? Was he gonna give the ladies hot water? Like, yeah, definitely keep him.
Yes, and of
hot
course he
water.
calls him Zach, and he doesn't like to be called Zach. He will not be called anything other than Doctor Zachary Smith, of course. So
Yeah,
here's where he's telling him. Go ahead.
I forgot the hot water bit. That was a little interesting twist. Like, I mean, is hot water really the way to a woman's heart? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine they would like a hot bath rather than
Yes.
a cold one.
Oh,
Even
yeah, so
as
would
a
I.
guy, as a guy, I'd prefer a hot bath other than a cold one.
Yeah, yeah, a hot shower is better than a cold shower, that's for sure. Though I don't like it too hot. It's usually like a little bit more lukewarm than the boiling hot. But
Right.
yeah.
You don't want it so bad. In fact, I have a friend who takes hot showers and it makes him ill.
Oh
So
yeah,
hot shower where you're seeing steam, it's not good for you.
yeah. The hot water in my building is so damn hot. You've got to put a decent amount of cold water to mix it with. Otherwise, you'll just scald yourself to death. It's
That's
so
great.
damn
Usually
hot.
apartment complexes, there's very little limited hot water,
I'm
so
not
you're very
happy unless
fortunate.
I'm being slowly cooked.
Slowly
Oh,
cooked. There you go.
so you like a really hot water, Jill.
Or like a turtle, or like, as they say, where the water slowly gets hotter. You add a little more and a little more and a little more.
Yeah.
So here's where we have. I know. Well, sorry, guys, we're talking about off topic,
We're
but
talking
the good
about
Doctor Smith,
shower topics.
right?
Oh God.
The good Doctor Smith and the our Doctor Smith. Our Doctor Smith was trying to convince the good Doctor Smith, why can't he just go back and replace him? And the good Doctor Smith is saying, well, the alien would notice. I mean, he got obviously tell us apart. And here's where we have Professor Robinson and Maureen Robinson talking about if they could keep Doctor Smith and if the aliens could tell them apart. And they're talking about if their defenses that they can defend themselves against the androids. Now remember, now as we were introduced in the first part of this episode, there's supposedly a group of androids. I wouldn't say I wouldn't go as far as saying an army of androids, but the alien did have a group of androids under his command, and they seem to I don't know where they went. Unless I missed something. Did I miss something, guys? They never showed or mentioned the androids again, right? The other ones.
They did seem to
There was
disappear.
just one that fell on Dr. Smith as he was escaping, and that was it.
Right, that was supposed to be Nexus
Yeah, I remember there
in the
was.
frozen state, right? Because they made a duplicate.
It seemed like there was like maybe what about 10 or so at the beginning of the episode, male and female androids,
Right.
and they all disappeared real quick. It seemed not too far into the episode. So yeah, go figure that one. I have no idea.
Well, I would maybe think about it too. It's not very often in this show that we get that many guest stars. So that was a lot of people to be on the show at the time. Usually, budget restricts that, but
Yeah.
I guess it didn't for the second half. It did for the first half, but not the second half,
Still, the thing
or
is though,
vice versa.
the androids were mostly just bit players, right? They didn't have any dialogue or any lines, so they probably wouldn't cost as much as somebody that actually has lines to speak, because that's when I think the pay scale goes up. So they were mostly just bit
Absolutely.
players.
Right. It does go up as soon as they open their mouths. Right. It goes up a
Mhm.
little more if they ride a horse. It goes up a little more if they wear makeup. There's like levels. So yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think there was only the one main guy that actually had any lines, right, Bob? So yeah,
Yeah, the guy that played Nexus and the
yep,
alien.
that's the guy.
And here's where our good Doctor Smith with the helmet says he insists on working out there after dark, and even though Will tells him that it's late, and he says basically the Doctor Smith that we know and love is not up to the task. Now he tells Will, you better run along. I have work to finish, and you'd be much safer inside. And of course, now we have our alert music, panic, panic, panic. And they get the force field ready because here come the aliens, obviously, to collect their property, which is Dr. Smith. We see this 2 episodes in a row. We saw this from the last one, and now we see it from this one, where the alien wants to come and collect their property. But in this case, it's His Majesty Smith. And the alien says, surrender the will. See, and this is what we mentioned earlier. The alien apparently cannot tell the difference between those two Dr. Smiths, even though he created one. So when he says surrender the real Dr. Smith, he's leaving it up to them to be honest. And leaving it up to Dr. Smith to be honest is not always a good thing. Well, that's right. Here we go. We get a couple appearances online, walk on parts of the aliens again. That's right. So I stand corrected, everyone.
There you go. Yeah, they knocked out the robot earlier.
That's right. They pulled his power pack. Right. They're not going to show violence on the robot like them smash the, the glass on his head or whatever like that. But they pulled his power pack, so they're very peaceful about it. And here's where we have Don is willing to shoot the laser rifle, and they said no, 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 wait. Of course, he gets interrupted. It's no use, my friends. The end is inevitable. He tells them. So now here's we come with our self-sacrifice, and here's where he says no, and Doctor Smith says I'll go out and I will volunteer. Oh, I have trouble explaining this because the two Doctor Smiths. That's part of the twist of the ending. But we have what appears to be our Doctor Smith saying that to defend the Robinsons, he will turn himself in over to the aliens, and that way the Robinsons will not be harmed. And he even says, perhaps I can make an arrangement with them.
It seems like the real Smith gets awfully noble at the end here. Like, wow, I didn't see this coming at all. Like,
Yeah,
suddenly
right.
he's
That's the way it seems. Definitely.
yeah, suddenly he's turned into some honorable dude. Like, wow, who
I
is
was getting
this
kind of
guy?
excited because it kind of reminds me of that episode where Q turns into a human, and he also is going to turn himself in for the sake of the ship, and for doing that he gets to be a Q again,
Ah, right,
and so
right.
and so I thought that's what was happening here, but it turns out, yeah, no.
Well, it's been 2 weeks, over 2 weeks since I watched it, so I'm kind of forgetting it. But I'm sure I will be reminded when we get to that part with the thumbnails. So it seems like Smith's very out of character here, though.
He's gonna make Glug, drink Glug, and make Sleeman.
Right, flea moth. Um, when it finally ended, by the way, this episode was running overtime, as the show usually tend to do, and especially when Jonathan Harris was involved. So this is the last scene shot in front of the cameras was the scene with the two Dr. Smiths down below the lower level of the ship and then trying to decide who to keep. And when filming was finally done, guest star Liam Sullivan said, my recollection was that it was a very warm and tight family of actors on that show. They all seemed to get along well. They liked each other. June Lockhart, Guy Williams, and so on. It was a joy to do because Jonathan was funny, and we knew each other from the Twilight Zone episode of Silence. And the whole thing was a very pleasant memory for me, and I had worked for Irwin Allen before on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Jonathan Harris said, and this is another one of his favorites, was probably His Majesty Smith. He says it was great fun. I had carte blanche to sort of play games, and I had always did things within the framework of what was good for the show, and it was good for the show. Yes, it was. The final cost of this episode came up to $172,787. And by the way, this episode was supposed to air on March 16th, but was preempted by a news special. Only hours into its flight orbiting the Earth, Gemini 8 had lost 30% of its fuel reserve and had to make an emergency re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. At this point, it went into an uncontrolled and violent spin, reaching 1 revolution per second. Aboard the space capsule were astronauts Neil Armstrong and David R. Scott. The crisis would later be called the vomit-inducing Gemini 8 mission. Armstrong and Scott made it back to Earth and splashed down in the ocean very near to their designated landing spot. And TV covered it to the best of its ability in 1966. 2 days later, the Madison, Wisconsin State Journal ran the headline, Lost in Space Tops Reality for Some. The article said, Channel 3 reported numerous calls of complaints Wednesday night because Lost in Space had been preempted by a telecast of the Gemini 8 space flight. But this is the real thing, one distraught father protested in answer to the loud wails of protest from his young. However, reality was a pale substitute for their favorite program. Why couldn't they just run the real thing in little writing along the bottom? And the astute 10-year-old demanded, Lost in Space is a lot more interesting. And
Well,
also,
it
TV Guide also
makes you
reported it
wonder.
too for its March 26th issue.
It does make you wonder if people even back then were a little, kind of out of touch with reality, because obviously the real jeopardy of those astronauts was a little bit more important than a TV episode, I would
I
think.
know. Imagine explaining that
Exactly.
to, explain that to a 10-year-old, right? A 10-year-old, but I want Lost in Space.
Yes, yeah, but Neil Armstrong and the other guy, they're going to be dead. Like we got to watch
I
that
know, but I
cruise,
want the
right?
robot. I want the robot.
Yeah. Well, I remember Apollo 13 when I was like, I don't know what year was that, 1970 or something. So I was like maybe 12 or something when that whole thing happened because I'll never forget. That was like a whole week when they were considered to be possibly, dead and never get back to Earth, right? If they had not got the trajectory of the reentry just perfect, they could have like shot off into space and we would have never heard from them again. And I'll never forget that was something that really glued everybody on planet Earth to the TVs because that was a huge deal. Worrying about the Apollo 13, mission and all the problems they had. And great movie, by the way. I think the movie's really pretty spot on. But yeah, that was an incredible week of tension. I'll never forget watching the news every night to see the updates on what was going on. But yeah. So sometimes real life can be very much as riveting as any fictional story.
I do have my son watch some takeoffs sometimes, like when William Shatner went to space for a little bit. But he never. I don't know if he really appreciates it, but
It's
he
always
likes to
good
do
to
it.
get a bit of reality in there, Jill.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And I want to mention that His Majesty Smith was pushed back one week and aired on the night the TV Guide and many other television directories said the Space Croppers due to
Oh,
the delay from
jeez.
the Gemini 8. Right. So basically, this episode aired a week late. TV Guide at the time said that this was supposed to be the night of the Space Croppers, which caused a lot of confusion. People believed back then everything they read. David McCallum and Robert Vaughn of The Man from Uncle had the cover of TV Guide this week.
Cool.
Nice.
Never fear, Smith is here. You're perfectly safe, of course. Right. Like we haven't learned to be warned when we hear that before.
Yeah,
So here we have.
they're putting stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just going to see what you're going to say. Probably that they're putting together a little time capsule, and I thought it was very
Exactly.
I thought it was very demeaning. I have to say, when Will Robinson has to tell Penny, yes, like the pyramids. I'm like, Penny wouldn't know that.
Yeah, no, Will does that quite a bit to Penny.
I know,
I
and she
I
should say,
notice it
I
every
know
time.
that. Don't you think I know that? Something like that, but no, she just takes it.
Like Penny says something simple about gravity, and he's like, "You're learning."
Right.
Yeah,
Not like us older guys, right?
Will's very demeaning to Penny at times. Like it kind of is really annoying trait he has because he's usually pretty cool, but he kind of treats Penny like garbage at times, doesn't he? You know,
A little bit,
when
Unfortunately.
you
yeah.
think about it, which I find offensive because Penny's one of my favorite characters. You guys know that. I think Penny is an awesome character that was sadly underused in most of the series, but oh well.
Yeah, I
All the
really loved the pilot where they introduced her as being very literary, and I wanted them to call back on that on some
Yeah,
occasions.
Penny's a real brain. Like she's really smart. Like in the few episodes she gets to take center stage. I mean, Angela's a fantastic, young actress back then, and the Penny character, when you had good writers like Jackson Gillis writing her, she was really an interesting, awesomely fully developed character. So it's always kind of bugged me that they never used her more often. But it's like, oh well, it did basically go to Smith and the robot and Will. By at least by season two, that was pretty much the center, I suppose. So yeah,
yes, I agree.
And it's funny the alien that we had in this episode because then they could have just used the same makeup and stuff because it looks like they're gonna have a werewolf. That alien already looked like werewolf.
yeah, it basically looked like a werewolf to me. Yeah, not the best makeup of all
Not the
time,
base
that's for
makeup,
sure.
but enough to give us the idea, which
Yeah,
leads us
well, he
into
was.
our cliffhanger.
Okay, I gotta admit, guys, this one's pretty much over the top for me. I just have to laugh out loud with that one. So we got what? Space croppers is the next one.
Yes.
Oh
And what
God.
I'm doing right now is, bear with me, guys. I'm queuing up our teaser for next week.
Oh
Very
yeah.
good.
And I did not get a chance. I apologize. I overlooked putting a poll in the chat. So everybody, if you're still here, still listening, please vote in the chat which grade
Gosh.
you would give this episode. A B C D. Sorry, A B C D F. Tell us what you think in the chat of what you vote. And I apologize for not getting that poll up there earlier, which I usually tend to try to do. And then I will cover that. So yeah, read out your and once again, you could give us your review of the episode, or you could give us your review of our coverage of the episode, whichever is good with you. And then we will also cover the reviews for our fellow panelists. Well, we really wrapped this one up early tonight, didn't we?
Yeah, less than 2 hours.
Yep. So
Amazing.
that gives me a chance before I move on any further is to get caught up on the chat because we would be nothing without the chat, obviously. So let's do that. Basil says, so what does that mean? Will we have to depend on cable TV service to broadcast over the air or cell carriers? I still use an antenna, but I can't pick up hardly any channels. Yes, Basil, that's exactly it. They're phasing them out, so that what you're picking up is going to be less and less and less. ATSC, the over the air broadcast standard, has now went through 3 revisions. So the newest version is ATSC 3.0. And what they've done is a lot of them are already abandoning ATSC 1.0. So what it looks like there's pretty soon they're going to abandon 2.0. And let me explain the difference of what's going on. Some of the television manufacturers are right now we're on the cusp of this. Is up to this point, most televisions when you purchase them still had the ability they had a built-in terrestrial tuner where you could hook it up to rabbit ears or as they called it, or an antenna, and most televisions can pull in over the air stations because they had the built-in ATSC tuners. But the problem is now TV manufacturers are starting to produce televisions that don't even have the ATSC tuner built into it anymore. So if you're going to buy a television and if you do want broadcast channels, you've got to keep an eye out and look for that because pretty soon you won't find TVs that even carry those anymore. And another downfall is, I'm sorry, we're off topic here, but since I brought it up, I'm going to finish it. Sorry, guys.
No,
But
that's okay. No problem.
ATSC 1.0 and 2.0, if your TV supported those, you could view channels as long as channels were being broadcast in those standards. The problem is with the new ATS 3.0, guess what? They're making it to where your TV has to constantly be receiving updates in order to be compatible. So if you have a newer television that has ATSC 3.0, the day's going to come where it goes to look for an update, and an update will not be there. And just one day you just won't be able to watch antenna shows over the air anymore. So there was a big article that came out just this week. One of the biggest manufacturers, I can't remember if it's Samsung or LG or one of those, have officially announced that no more TVs with built-in ATSC tuners, and they expect the other ones to eventually follow suit. So that's why I brought that up. And it is a sad day, and it's a greedy day because I think they should always offer that for people that choose over the air.
Right, because you can buy an antenna that will give you whatever's in the air, whatever's being broadcast.
Well, you think that you could at least, at a minimum, they should give you the free network channels, like the 3 networks here in the U.S., 4 networks, I guess, with Fox, and whatever's
Right.
normally free, like in Canada and Britain. But as soon as they realize, we make more money by forcing them to pay a streaming fee, and bundling up our channels into a bundle. Of course, they realize that, and they're taking the greedy
It's
turn,
over.
which is
Yep.
really
Yeah,
sad.
it's all the damn greedy cable companies here, Pop. It's like if you don't pay like a monthly cable fee like I do, you don't get no TV at all. So it's like, what you gonna do? It's a greedy world we're living in. Because when I was a kid back in the '60s, we had one single channel, but it was over the over the air with the rabbit ears, and it was far better with one channel than like having 40 or 50 or whatever the hell I got now. Because back then, one channel had all the great shows. You could put TV on and you'd have like 6 hours a night of fantastic, high quality TV. Because they would, basically pick all the hit shows on my one local station, right? So
Yes.
it was fantastic. I mean, you got all kinds of good shows every week, and now it's like I don't even put the TV on anymore because it's all crap. So yeah.
It's back then too, since there was so few channels, they had to really compete and make the shows really good. And because if they didn't get ratings, they were canceled. And now that there's so many channels, they can air it no matter how bad it is. I'm looking at you, Disney Plus.
Oh, it's
But now it's
ridiculous.
where they can show bad shows, and even though they're bad shows, they don't care. They air them anyway.
Oh God, yeah. It's like some of the channels I got on my TV, it's like reality garbage, right? Reality. Kardashians, et cetera, et cetera, right?
They're
It's
just
just
trying
like
to fill things up rather than actually provide good
yes,
stuff.
Well,
I
right.
do
Well, what
remember.
happened
Yeah.
if you remember right, for those of us old enough to remember, no offense that if you're not, but it all started with a writer's strike. Is they had a writer's strike, so that's when a lot of the networks said, "Well, let's just start doing these so-called reality shows," and that's when we got Big Brother and Survivor,
Oh
whatever,
God,
and all that garbage.
horrible.
And what happened at that point was, quote, reality television replaced about 70% of scripted television. So now at that point, it was like 70% reality TV, 30% scripted. But now, guess what we're going to get after this current writer's strike? Can you imagine? So yeah, if you miss what's called scripted television, you're going to miss it even more now because this is what the studios that they said. They said you're going to get a lot more reality television now because of that writer's strike. So they basically told the writers, okay, here you go. Here's what you want. You've been demanding this. Here you go. We're just not going to hire you. We're just going to do reality TV. So that's what they're doing. So the writers, just like the fast food workers in California, by demanding more and more money, they wrote themselves into a hole to where now they're practically unhireable and they're going to be replaced by robots. So welcome to the real world, people. Sad to say, but truth. At least in my opinion, that is. Resolute Germ says the phase out of broadcast TV stations is still projected for 2030 to 2045. I hope it doesn't happen until then. But the fact that this is 2023 and the manufacturers are already ceasing production of televisions with built-in over-the-air tuners, we may be seeing it even sooner.
Oh, it's pretty much happened in Canada years ago here. Like I could probably buy rabbit ears if I wanted to put out the cash, but I doubt I'd be able to pick up more than a couple of really fuzzy looking channels that wouldn't even be worth watching basically. So yeah, it's pretty much dead here.
Well, and here's another thing too: is a lot of people are not aware of that if you're receiving, all right, I'm going to compare over-the-air signals and channels to cable and a satellite. Over the air actually has the highest picture quality. So if the show is being broadcast, for example, in 1080p, you're going to get it in 1080p. But if you're getting it as part of a cable subscription package or a satellite subscription package, there's a chance you're going to watch it in 720p or lower quality standard because it's part of a streaming package. So another thing that's going to be missed about over-the-air antenna is the picture quality itself. It's far superior believe it or not, over an antenna. You can buy a $10 antenna, and you're going to get much better picture and sound quality than if you're paying for a $150 package through a Comcast, an internet provider slash cable TV provider. FCC is very eager to get rid of broadcast TV. Well, FCC doesn't carry the way as long as they get their fees. It's basically the networks and the owners of the channels that are the ones that are eager to do it. Gorilla's Random Thought says, I'm not calling him Daddy, referring to Daddy Zach. And
It's
Basil
really
says,
weird.
now we know who did it. Gorilla shot JR. I saw him do it. And
I like
Resolute
in
Germ
time
says,
travel.
yes, it is more like a time travel. Resolute Germ, speaking of MASH, when is somebody going to do a review on that masterpiece? Oh my, well, considering MASH was on the air for 11 years, I can imagine how many years it would take for us to cover every episode of MASH.
It would take a long. Well, it would take basically 11 years, right? One a week. So
And that's if we right if we right if we make sure not to miss an episode, right? And I agree, MASH is a masterpiece.
Oh, it's a great
But
show. Yeah.
considering it's 11 seasons, that's going to be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, it's a long run for sure. Yeah.
Abaru, hello, Abaru, welcome to the chat. I'm not sure if I've seen your name before, but a wholeheartedly welcome and a big hug. I'm glad you decided to join us for tonight. And
Oh,
Abaru
hello.
says, I live outside my city limits, and with a $35 amplified antenna from Walmart, I pick up 30 over-the-air channels. I'm in South Texas.
Nice.
Hello,
Yes,
Aperu.
yes, hello and welcome. And that's true. You can get those amplified antennas. And by the way, a little side note: if you're still in the market for those amplified antennas that Abaru mentioned, they're basically it's a antenna you put on your roof. Some of them are designed for in your house, stick to the outside. And when they're called amplified, don't believe anything that says that it reaches over 100 miles, because with the curvature of the Earth, that is physically impossible. So there's a lot of antennas out there under the guise where they'll charge extra and they'll say, well, you'll pick up channels 150 miles away, 200 miles away. It's not true with the curvature of the Earth. So when you go shopping for an antenna for over-the-air television, you have no reason to set your sights any higher than 100 miles, and even then, that's questionable. And Resolute Germ says, we had jacks when I was a kid, but my mom took them away when I slammed my butt into them. Tisk, 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 Resolute Germ. Girls Rant Thought says, I don't know about the hot water, but I know tequila makes her clothes fall off.
Uh-oh.
Shame
Maybe
now. We don't need any more Bill Cosby's now, Gorilla.
better tequila first and then maybe the hot water to follow. That might be a good plan.
Right. Okay. Now I'm not spitting out. Now, exclude me from this topic, guys. That's not me. I don't try to get people sauced up, take advantage of them.
Oh, jeez.
Basil Battle Dragon says, I had a friend who converted to the Sikh cult and lived in a. No offense to everybody out there, but I'm not exactly saying that all Sikhs are cults. That's just an opinion of one of our viewers. I had a friend who converted to the Sikh cult and lived in an ashram where he was only allowed to take cold showers. Brr, no fun. Yes, some of those religions have interesting rules to live by. Some of them had, including not bathing. So yeah, I think you'll be able to figure out who those are really quick if you ever get around them. Lemon Pie says, welcome, Abaru. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Abaru. Let us know if I'm not. Because the last thing I want to do is mince your name all over and mess it up. I usually try to give full respect to everyone. Gorilla's Renapot says, did the screen really say better get in Daddy Smith? Yes, it did say better get in Daddy Smith. Yes. And Lemon Pie says, Basil, did he adjust some clown that results in more energy? I'm trying to say. Did he adjust some clown that results in more energy?
I think he's talking about cold showers.
Oh, yeah, that could be it. That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, PvP. And
You're
Taylor
welcome.
Swift, Jill's greatest fan, says, Person Turquoise waving, and he's waving and waving and waving, saying hello. And Taylor also says, hello, all. Taylor
Welcome
Swift
back,
also
Matt
says,
G.
LOL. Yes, absolutely. Lemon Pie, hello, Disney Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift says, yo. And Lemon Pie says, truth can be as entertaining as fiction. For example, nearly 1 year ago, a man in Canada acquired a massive eggnog by his own ingenuity. Wow, that's incredible. Who was that masked man? And Herc130 says, werewolf, werewolf, the castle, as a reference to the fantastic Young Frankenstein, which, even though it's a comedy, I am going to cover that on my horror sci-fi stream because it's a masterpiece, and I'd be crazy not to cover that movie. And
Good stuff.
PvP, Pleasant Valley Picker CA says C plus is his review. Resolute Germ says C. And Resolute Germ says, you did great on time. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I tend not to try not to go overboard for some people because I know with the time shifts and the times and everything, some people are 2 or 3 hours later than me. And I hate to keep you up, especially on a night where you have to work the next day. I don't want that to be my fault if you're late to work. I feel really terrible. Resolute Germs is not so much greed, but the steady march of technology. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can abandon ATSC because they actually invested money to come up with the ATSC standard. So the fact that they invested the money for the technology, establish the technology, start shipping out televisions with ATSC 3.0, and then intentionally kill it. That's greed. Like
I think,
the analogy of the light bulb. That's exactly what happened with light bulbs. The first
yeah, I
light
think
bulb was
greed,
invented, was designed to last hundreds of years, and they realized they weren't making money, so they intentionally made light bulbs to burn out after a certain amount of time.
yeah, I think
So,
greed's definitely a component in the thinking there for sure, Bob.
right, intentional obsolescence. Resolute
Yeah,
Germ says
yeah.
not as much greed, just a steady march of technology. There we go. Resolute Germ says a wise android once said TV was little more than a fade that didn't last much past the mid 21st century. I can see that being true.
Yeah, that's a reference to Star Trek. There's an episode of Star Trek in which Data says this.
Yeah, I can actually see that actually coming to pass now, guys. Like the way TV has been the last 10, 15 years, I can see where it maybe isn't going to be watched by anybody, in another 20, 30 years from now. I could see that actually happening.
Yep, cord cutters are
Yeah.
increasing more and more every year.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
lots of times where Star Trek is very predictive of the future, and that was one case. The Neutral Zone, that's the episode. Next Generation.
The neutral zone.
Yeah,
Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
That's one of my favorite things about Trek is it did predict so many things in the future that have come to pass. I mean, of course, we don't have warp drive or transporters yet, but a lot
Well,
of the other stuff they talked about, was actually here, like telephones and uh, uh, you know, all that kind of
well, as
communicators.
another one from TNG is Reginald Barclay predicted WebMD because he was a hypochondriac and he would use the computer to figure out what was wrong with him.
There you go.
and something that I'll mention too that happened just this week because you reminded me of it. PvP is when it comes to our technology and us hopping from planet to planet. It seems like every year it changes. One year they say, "Oh, this is going to be our new technology." Then the next year this is going to be our new technology. And I read an article saying that at the current point of where we are now with technology, it looks like our best bet to get from planet to planet is solar sails. So I thought
Interesting.
that was interesting, and that's something that can be done without having to worry about technology and fuel. So it does make sense. And I know the first time I ever heard of solar sails was Star Trek 4.
What was the one in Deep Space Nine where Jake and his
Yeah, that was super cool.
Cisco?
That was a Bajoran an ancient Bajoran ship, one of their first
Yeah,
ships that
that's a
they
great
knew they could
episode.
use it to sail to Cardassia.
That's one of my
And they
favorite
actually
episodes.
that
Yeah,
is my favorite Deep Space Nine episode.
I love it.
It's called Explorers.
Explorers. Yeah, is that season two?
I
I
think it's
forget now,
3.
but three.
Season
I
3.
love that episode. One thing I love about Explorers is there's basically no battles. There's no fighting. There's nobody dies. It's like, there's no big confrontations. It's just Jake and Cisco working father and son to make this ship, fly basically on the solar wind.
Yeah, that was one of the
And
really great things about Deep Space Nine is they showed a very positive father and son relationship.
oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. But yeah, I love that episode. That's probably got to be in my top 10 Deep Space Nine episodes for sure. Probably in the top five, actually. It's right up there. Yeah. That's
Oh
a
yeah,
good one.
definitely.
Really good.
Well, now that we're at it, I had to ask Jill. Jill, after TOS, what are
Sure.
you going to cover?
TOS after TOS for all mankind.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm not complaining. I was just curious because I know we got a year to go, but I was just kind of curious. And that's great because I've always wanted to discover that show as well.
Yeah,
I've
me
heard it
too.
was
Well,
good.
I'll be watching it for the first time.
Are you
We'll
going to wait
see.
until then to watch it? Or are you going
Yep,
to start
I
watching it
am.
now?
I'm gonna
Or
wait.
okay,
Gonna
good
wait.
idea. Same here. If I'm still around, I'll wait until then. I may
Go ahead. You're
regret
gonna
saying
be
that,
here.
but I know that's what I keep saying. Right? I know I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. And Ebaru says you're good in reference to the pronunciation of the name. So welcome, Ebaru, and it's so good to see you. And I'm gonna mute just for a moment, guys, because I'm gonna get the clip ready for next week's episode. So give me just a moment. I'll be
Okay,
right
great.
back.
Okay, awesome. Well, that was an episode, but we'll wait until Pop gets back before we do our reviews of the episode because we still have yet to say what grade we give the episode yet.
Yes, feel free to talk about whatever you guys want, or if those of you guys in the chat, if there's anything you want to add to the chat and for people to read, feel free to do so, and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. This is not just Canadian Thanksgiving. It's also Columbus Day.
Yeah. It's not a stat in the States, though, is it, Columbus Day, Jill?
What's that? What was the question?
It's not a stat holiday, Columbus Day, though, is it down there?
I don't know. I don't know. Stat.
Well, a statutory holiday is like it's like
Oh,
a
okay.
Thanksgiving
Like
here. It's
government
like
holiday.
I get a day off, right? No, a lot of people don't work.
Yeah, we don't call it that here. I don't know what we call it. What do we call it?
It's like an official holiday where a lot of people
like
get the day off.
where mostly the federal government will get the day off. I don't know.
Yeah, anybody like working for the post office, for instance, will have today off for sure, right? If you're a government worker, you'll have the day off. And like since I work for a small company, I get the day off. If you're working like at a grocery store, you probably still have to work, right? Because they're still open. So
yeah, we just call it a federal holiday.
That's the same thing, basically. Yeah. It's like Christmas and New Year's Day, right? Those are stat holidays here where, most people have the day off kind of thing. So
yeah, definitely. Like the post office is closed. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like Canada Day, and you guys have the 4th of July. I imagine a lot of places are closed on July 4th down there. So it's kind of the same thing,
for
basically.
sure.
Yeah.
Resolute Germ says no one gets Columbus Day off. Yeah, almost no one.
It's probably not an official holiday. I know some are and some
most
aren't.
schools keep open. My kids are off just because it's fall break.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, and Matt G says, I think Jill should dress as a monster or a vampire this Halloween. This Halloween, Jill stars as Antiderivative Jill. Never attacks the same way twice, because that would be derivative. Oh my goodness. I'm starring in a horror movie. Did you know this, BB?
I did not
And in
know
this
that.
movie, I kill everybody in a different way.
Oh, goodness. That doesn't seem to be your nature, Jill. I can't imagine you wanting to ever kill anybody, to be honest.
No, I don't want to kill anybody, but
you're too nice. You couldn't be killing people. You're too nice. Even if you were a vampire, you'd probably go to the blood bank and get blood there, right? You'd be going, I don't want to kill anybody and bite them in the neck to suck their blood. I'm just going to go to the blood bank and get some there. So.
Resolute Journey. Oh yeah, I already read that one. Matt G says, and rude. Somebody's being rude. Matt G also says Arbor Day and Halloween and Valentine's Day need to be federal holidays. Oh yeah, you're right. Those are not federal holidays. Those are fun holidays.
Yeah, Halloween's a big deal, but it's not an official holiday here. Yeah.
And it always just falls on a weird random day. This year it's on a Tuesday.
Well, whatever the 31st is, right? That's when Halloween happens. So yeah.
Right. Next year it'll be on a Thursday, because I accidentally looked up next year. So I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah, well, those holidays do have a way of moving around from year to year. That's for sure.
And Matt G says Antiderivative Jill would be a cool Halloween name. Would.
Just don't change your name to Spartacus again.
No, I don't think I will. I think I've had enough of that. But you know what? It led to a really good live stream. I had a great time talking about that movie with Tony Stark and I think you. Who did I do that stream with?
What movie?
It was Spartacus.
Oh yeah, I was there on the Spartacus.
You were there. Yeah, I thought you were there.
Yeah,
it was you and Tony.
I love that movie. We had a great time talking about that. What were we on for, like 3 hours or something? Like that was great
Yeah,
fun.
something like that. It was great.
And
It's an
you
incredible
enjoyed it too,
film.
didn't you, Jill? You
I
like
did.
Spartacus a
It
lot, I think.
yeah, it
Yeah.
well, I do remember watching it and made me cry 3 times, but it is a really good movie.
Oh, well, that's got to be good then.
Uh-huh.
When
Exactly.
it tears at your heartstrings, that's got to be a good movie. Yeah, I
Yeah, you
like
can't.
well, Kirk Douglas is fantastic in that, and of
That's what I was
course,
gonna
one of
say.
my
You can't go wrong with Kurt Douglas. He was a
oh man, the Iron Jaw, right, Pop?
well. What's interesting back then, I don't think it's possible these days. But with Kurt Russell as well as with Charlton Heston, back then you didn't have a man that was formidable, big, muscular, strong, and masculine, and also be an actor who with a very wide range of talent. I don't think that's possible anymore.
Well,
I
you
couldn't give you one name of anybody I think who falls in that category.
yeah, I think all the actors you just mentioned, Pop, they were all strong, muscular, handsome, totally, male, real men, right? And but they also had intelligence. They were also thoughtful, intelligent, charismatic. I mean, if they had a female lead, a romantic interest in the film, they would show her tenderness, right, when it was called for, right, in the scene. So it wasn't like men were one dimensional back then. They were fully formed human beings, but they were still able to be portrayed as strong, charismatic figures, right?
Role models, right? Which is
Role
something they don't
models.
show now. Role
Yeah,
model. That's a taboo now. I
yeah,
guess, unfortunately.
yeah. I just love those movies. I mean, all the actors you mentioned are all great actors in my book. So yeah. Oh, by the way, since you mentioned Kurt Russell, yeah, you're ever thinking of maybe doing Escape from New York one of these months?
I might horror sci-fi. I guess it probably falls into the sci-fi category.
I
But I'm
think
a
it
big
would.
John Carpenter fan, so I have no problem with showing it.
I really love that film. Like, to me, that's my favorite Kurt Russell movie of all time because his character Snape Plissken is just so perfectly iconic. Like he just nails that character so well in that movie. It's just like, and the script is great, and the supporting cast, like Ernest Borgnine and the whole supporting cast is wonderful. It's just a really fun movie.
It
I
is.
really like
I
that.
agree.
I really like it.
I know Kurt Russell, I like him so much. It's hard for me to nail down my favorite role.
Mm,
Um, I would have to say it's hard for me to come up with just one title. I mean, yes, I loved Escape from New York, but I also loved Big Trouble in Little China. I also loved Used Cars. I mean, the guy has got, like I was mentioned earlier, range. He's got range. I mean, he can be strong male character, action hero, or he can be somebody that total buffoon that you can laugh at. So that's what I like about Kurt Russell. He had that range about him,
yeah, he
and I
does
don't
have a
know. I think it's a dying art these days. I can't think of any actors that have range anymore.
yeah, he does have a long career, varied career for sure. So yeah.
Okay, and yeah, and I see you guys caught up on the chat for me. I really appreciate that, and thank you for your patience because I had to step away to get the I usually show the preview for next week's episode, which I had to get that together, which I'm now ready after we cover our reviews. And I saw most of the people in the chat did give us a review, and I thank you everyone for that. Um, I know Jill stepped away for a moment, so PvP. Let me get you. I know you voted in the chat because I saw your review. I think you gave it a C if I remember right.
Give it a
But
C plus.
why don't you elaborate? Tell us why would
Uh,
you give it a C plus, and then tell us about your channel if you'd like.
I thought it was a decent episode, but definitely, as far as season one goes, it was not one of the best. There's much better episodes in season one. I actually think towards the end of the season, now that we're into like the last four or five, getting to the end of season one, I do think there was a noticeable drop off in the quality overall towards the end of season one. And for me, this is one that shows that it wasn't a horrible episode. Like I didn't hate it or anything. It was it
Uh
was
huh.
it was fine, but I thought story wise there wasn't really a lot going on. Basically you had the the real Smith and the duplicate Smith, and you had the androids here and there in a few scenes, and you had the hairy, guy that wanted to, take Smith back and make him the sacrificial king or whatever. And it was like, oh, okay, that's all fine, but to me, there wasn't a really compelling story in this one, which is why I gave it a C plus. It's like it was all right. It's good for a watch, but it's not an episode I'd rewatch. Probably never, actually, to be honest. It's just one of those that I just find mediocre, basically.
That's fine. Well, I guess one way you could tell is we covered it in 2 hours, and for us, that's a record.
Yeah,
Just like the Star Trek TOS, the better the episodes, the more we go and jabber on and on about it. Right? We have to usually
that's
letting it
true.
short.
Yeah, well, if it's a really great episode, we will come up with a lot more ideas about why we love it, right? So yeah,
Right. Which is great because that just means we're being honest. We don't just blatantly give every episode 5 stars and say, "Oh, it's wonderful, it's the best thing ever." Rinse and repeat. Next week, say the same thing. It's like, no, we're honest here, and if it's not that good of an episode, we will call that out. So
yeah, there's
that's one
definitely
thing I liked about this channel. I mean, I don't mean to self congratulate myself, but that's one thing that I like about my channel and Jill's is that we're honest and we'll give the honest opinions. We'll warts and all. We'll tell everybody what's going on
yeah.
instead of just being a bunch of shills, right?
Yeah, that's why both of you guys' channels are so excellent, is because it is honest and it is down to earth, and you guys are a lot of fun, and you just tell it like it is, and there's no BS, and yeah, that's what makes both of you and Jill's channels really fun to watch. So yeah, totally.
And fun to do because I
Oh,
wouldn't want to be one of those where I'm just a parroting every week how wonderful it is. I
I would
prefer being
never.
honest.
Yeah, I'd never try to miss the Lost in Space streams and the horror sci-fi streams on Monday, Tuesdays. Like those are kind of staples in my week, so I try to be there. So yeah.
Excellent. And good night, Resolute Germ. Resolute Germ
Good
Okay,
says
night,
night,
Germ.
peace all.
Resolute.
Yes,
Night,
thank you
Germ.
for joining us, Germ. I appreciate that. And Taylor Swift, greater than Disney Star Wars, says I'd replace it at Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, July 4th, Memorial Day, Labor Day with Valentine's Day, Halloween, Arbor Day, Super Bowl Sunday, Earth Day, and Groundhog Day as federal holidays. There you go. That's right. Keep waving the flags of discontent.
I think I'd prefer the way it is now, actually. I kind of
Well, yeah,
like having Thanksgiving and
but
New Year's Day off, to be honest,
but
and
remember
Christmas.
now our holidays are slowly changing. So do you prefer the old holidays or the new ones that are coming up? Like remember now we don't have Father's Day anymore. Now it's Juneteenth,
Yeah, we do.
and I can
It's
barely say those words
oh,
anymore. They come out of my mouth.
but it's still Father's Day.
We
It's
still
oh
have
yeah for
Mother's
us
and Father's
for
Day
us that
here.
no one remember. But I'm saying is you guys are going to see it in your lifetime, where people are going to say Father's Day. What's that? I thought June was for Juneteenth. I mean, there's already a concerted effort in the liberal states to do that, and usually whatever they do ends up coming true. Unfortunately,
But Juneteenth, that would be June 19th every year, and Father's Day falls on different days every year. So it's still
but
Father's Day. It could have both holidays.
oh, I agree too. I totally agree. But I know when I was living in California, you would get nasty looks even if you brought up the term Father's Day because they're
Oh,
intentionally trying to get rid of that. Unfortunately, that's part of getting rid of masculine men. And if you ask me why, I don't know why. Once again, I think it's all part of the concerted effort to reduce the population. But I'm not the expert. That's just an opinion. Everybody, please don't hate me too much. Taylor Swift is laughing, and Taylor Swift says, "Hey, I can't work Groundhog Day. I got to see if it's winter." That's right. You tell him. Okay, and is there anything you'd like to tell us about your channel there, PvP, before Jill gives us her review?
Uh, I've kind of given up on my stream of songs that are 3 minutes or less, because I got like 850 songs in there now, so I've got way over my head. I still kept it private because I have no idea how I'm ever going to edit this thing. I'm actually thinking the first like 50 or 60 songs are pretty good. I've got them in a really good order, so I'm actually kind of thinking what I might do is I'll just create a new playlist and transfer those first 50 songs over to the new playlist and just go, uh, songs under 3 minutes, playlist one, just number it as number one, and then go number two, number three. and just sort of sort it out that way because that would be more manageable. So yeah, I've kind of created a monster, so to speak. So it's like, you just kind of on the weekend, you just start adding songs when you're just, relaxing. And before you know it, you got 800 freaking songs. So yeah, it's not good. So yeah, but that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm just going to like condense it and streamline it onto shorter streams. Because, I mean, basically, most people probably don't need more than about 50 songs to listen to at a time anyway, right? Even if they're 3 minutes long, that's still, like 3 hours or something. So anyway,
Okay.
just a thought.
No, that's fine. It's totally understandable. And I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you also for giving us your review and for being here tonight.
Oh, you're very welcome. I always love to be here.
Okay, and let me get my. I'm moving around doing several things in the background, guys. And there we go here. And how about what say you, Jill? What would you say about give us your review?
Actually, before I give the review, I had a question. Did the
Uh
Mark
huh.
Cushman book have anything to say about the dummy that was the Nexus dummy? Because I was curious about that.
I did not
How?
find anything based on that. You're talking about the dummy that fell on Dr. Smith.
Yes, I thought that was
No,
cool and it looked good.
it did, right. And we're going to have an episode without spoilers coming up where they do a double routine and it's even better. I'll put it that
Oh,
way.
it's even better. Cool, but
Yes, it's even better.
yeah, this episode looked good and everything. But I give it the same grade as PvP. Actually, surprisingly, I gave
Oh,
it a C plus. This was a good episode for children to show them that things aren't always as they seem and to not take things at face value. Always make sure to do your proper research. So the hero of the episode obviously is a robot who actually does the actual due diligence of questioning the aliens, questioning their intention, and even when he gets the power pack taken out of him and he's kind of the victim there, his being knocked out tells the family that something's not right. And I almost gave up. So unsurprisingly, the robot's the best part for me, but i almost I almost gave it up as a simple morality tale. But things are solved a bit when we do get the duplicate Dr. Smith. I thought he was really awesome at first because I thought he was an android. But then further on in the episode, they start using language like "I'm human" and making it seem like he's a clone. My daughter is yelling for me. I
Okay, that's fine.
At first, I really loved that the duplicate Smith is not only humble but intelligent enough to realize that he's not the person who earned the PhD. So so he wants to be called Zach. This is what I thought at first, but except it turns out not to be true. The moment you realize he's just as much into self-preservation, because I guess we missed out on talking about it, but he was trying to get rid of the original Smith.
Well, yeah, he definitely wanted to be the new Dr. Smith in the family, right?
Hmm. I thought,
Which is
and
what, right? That's why they had that
but
discussion on the Jupiter too, when he was talking about all the bad virtues or the lack of good traits that Dr. Smith had. So that was part of that, I guess, where we should have had that discussion.
oh yeah, yes, we should have definitely. I forgot about it until I got to this review. That I did this review last week. Otherwise, I probably would have remembered this. I should have read it. But I thought it was a really weird test by Dr. Robinson because their family's really compassionate. They wouldn't oust somebody just because they look like someone else. And I thought he was trying to see the true nature of the duplicate because I didn't see any reason why they couldn't have them both there. Do they have something against twins? It was confusing because they didn't establish that they could clone as well, and they only talked about making androids. So I thought it was an android until they kept saying he's human. It's not a problem that they can do both, but when you're watching a show for the science fiction, you want to be able to follow along, and that part remained unclear the entire time.
Right, it was a little inconsistent, I guess.
And saying that they created this Smith out of OG Smith's essence doesn't exactly confirm that he's human. So it's good that they finally hammer that home at least.
Right.
It's
They don't even
definitely.
mention if he eats food or not, for example.
Oh yeah, good point. He can make the eggs Benedict, but can he eat it?
Yes, exactly. That would have been a nice point when they brought up, should we stay, should we leave, and they could say whether the rations are affected. Does he consume food and or water?
Oh man,
Hmm.
But I
yeah.
know they didn't really bring that up.
I would have
Interesting.
liked that. That would have been some good stuff. It's definitely within Dr. Smith's character to guilt trip and manipulate someone better than him into doing what he wants, which is what he does in this episode. And you still question things, so the good part of this episode is you're questioning which Smith is which. Had it been the real Smith who had sacrificed himself, it didn't have to have been out of character though, because as I mentioned before, there was an episode where Q had some aliens that were chasing after him because he mistreated them as a omnipotent being, and but now that he was mortal, they were coming after him, and in both cases, if it had been the real Dr. Smith, Q and Dr. Smith give themselves up, but nothing really changes. But except that's not how they did it in this episode. It was actually the good Dr. Smith who gave himself up, and uh, I was uncertain whether or not this would happen, because so that's why it gets as high as a C plus, because it could have gotten less than that if it didn't have that element of mystery. I do recognize that the effects of having duplicates is a really stellar feat for the 60s, so I do give it credit for that. The episode played mostly on mixed identities, and it did well at that. But my main question is, why does the Andronican have to wait for a ship to get them when they are on a ship already?
I know. Well, how many times we heard that, right? I mean, we heard that just last week and the week before, right? That they're waiting for their ship to come and pick them up.
Hmm.
They've had all these plans for all these years and everything planned just right, except now they have to wait for their ride.
Yeah, basically. And that's my review. And my name's Antiderivative Jill, and I have a channel by the same name where I like to celebrate science fiction. And I'll be doing that tomorrow, continuing Star Trek, finishing out season 2 of the original series, looking at Assignment Earth. So come join me for that. And on Friday the 13th, we're going to be looking at my favorite horror movie, Cube.
Q. Oh, I have not seen
Cube.
that.
I'm excited. Oh, it's a great
Yeah.
movie. You've got to
That's a
watch it if you need
Canadian.
to.
It's a Canadian movie, is it not?
Yeah, it's got Esri and Dr. McKay from Stargate and Esri from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was a
nice.
Canadian film. Yeah, I remember. I'll have to take a look at that if I have the time this week. That might be fun. Yeah.
Very
Oh shit!
smart.
I
Good
just
movie.
realized, so I got to work Friday because once again today's a holiday, so that means I'm going to work Tuesday through Friday. So unfortunately, I'll have to miss it, I guess, Jill. Oh well.
I'm sorry to hear that, but
Well, try to be there
it's
for the
gonna be a good
Yeah,
rerun.
time. Yeah, check it
yeah. These
out.
holidays have been screwing up my schedule lately, but oh well.
Thank you,
What
Lemon
can
Pie,
you
for
do?
posting my channel.
What can you
Yes,
do?
thank you, Lemon Pie. We appreciate you're helping us out. And Jay Aldridge, hello Jay. Mikey will not have a stream for a while. He had to take his wife Suzanne to the hospital. She's having surgery.
Oh
Well, sorry to hear
no.
that.
Oh
Please give
no.
him our best.
No.
Tell him that we're
Yeah.
rooting for her and him.
Oh damn.
So
That's really
yeah,
very disturbing news. Like,
I
geez,
know,
there was
right, and I know
wow.
all surgery is serious, but hopefully it's not too serious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully
right.
it's
There are
not serious.
stages.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
crap.
Yeah. So yeah,
Damn.
tell him good luck for us, and then
Geez,
he will be sorely missed.
there's been a lot of hard stuff going on in the community the last few months, has there not, guys? Like with
Yeah,
people getting
everybody,
sick.
note to selves: stop getting old. That seems to
Oh,
be all of our
well,
problems. We seem to be getting old.
no, I prefer to keep getting older because the alternative is even worse.
Right? You want to stick around for this, right?
I'm not looking forward to though. Oh, there's nothing fun about getting old, is there, Pop? It's like
No.
sometimes I just wonder where am I going to be at in 10, 15 years? Like, do I need to take out like extended living insurance or something? Because I know there's going to come a day when it's going to be very hard to be alone and keep everything going. So yeah, it's scary. It's pretty scary actually.
Well, and something I want to mention. I know it's kind of out of context with our stream, but I encourage everyone to have a will of some sort because you never know when it's going to happen. It could be all of a sudden. It could be an accident. The biggest burden you could leave your loved ones is to worry about what's going to happen with you after you pass away. I've been to that many times. So
That's
try
true.
to make plans whenever you can, even though you may think, well, I'm going to live forever. You never know what could happen.
Very
And
true.
then Pi says, "Hi Jay. Oh, is she going to be okay?" And Jay
Yeah,
says,
it
"We
was
are
very.
praying." So, well, Jay,
Jennifer.
thank you for sharing that with us, Jay. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Mikey. Like, oh man, he must be going through a tough time right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad he's with her, so that can help keep her encouraged.
yeah. Hopefully
Someone to
everything
hold
goes
her
well.
hand. Lemon Pie says, "Let me know that I'll be praying for them, Jay." And Jay says, "We'll do lemon pie." And Jay says, "I hope PBB sees this."
Oh,
Oh
I see
yeah,
it, Jay. Actually, if you can, Jay, pass on my well wishes, to Mikey and his wife, and hope everything will go well. Please, if you want to pass that on, that'd be great.
Yeah, I hope everything's okay. Hey, can you make me regular sized?
there we go.
Thank you.
Right on cue. I know. I'm the same way. I don't want people looking at my face too much either. I don't want to turn their stomachs. That's me, though. That's me. You look great. Me, not so much.
Your
Lemon
avatar is
pie.
awesome.
Well, I'll stick with the avatar right now.
It's got tribbles. That's great.
It's got dribbles in it, right? And my loved ones, my pooches. Nimbus of Eden says Cube is great. And we got another vote for Cube. Lemon Pie says Jill's channel, and Lemon Pie drops a link to Jill's channel. Thank you so much for doing that, Lemon Pie. And yeah, definitely check out. Be there tomorrow for her Star Trek. When we say TOS, we mean the original series. For those of you that, if you're wondering what is TOS, so yeah, she's gonna have her TOS stream tomorrow, Assignment Earth, and tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'll be covering the 1958 version of the Blob. 6 p.m. Pacific time, that is. Nimbus Bean says, just keep drinking that eggnog, PvP. It's the nectar of the gods. Yes, your
Unfortunately, I'm
fountain of
I'm
youth.
I'm broke right now because I don't get my payday till Thursday. So, no eggnog tonight. Just cheap beer is what I'm drinking.
Just
So,
cheap beer.
just cheap beer, but it's okay. Cheap beer is okay too.
Jay says, I will PvP, and for all of you. Well, thank you,
Thank
Jay.
thank you, thank you, Jay.
Okay, so let me get this here. Thank you, PvP and Antiderivative Jill, for your reviews and for sharing your information about your channel. And thank you to everybody, specifically every individual person on the chat and who have chatted with us tonight. I really appreciate it. If you're just lurking, that's fine as well. I hope you
Uh,
enjoyed the stream, and I hope you give us a thumbs up
hey,
and
Pop,
consider subbing. Go ahead.
did you give us a rating on the episode yet? I don't remember.
That's what I'm going to do now.
Oh, good. I was starting to wonder.
And I'm going to follow along with what you guys. I had a similar reaction to this episode. I would say I would give it a C plus. It's not the best of Lost Space. It's not the worst. I did like the fact that we got the two Dr. Smiths. I mean, like I said, this is the first time this will happen, so it will happen again. But I enjoyed that and the idea of the self-sacrifice. And I know the rules play a little fast and loose with how easily the Robinsons were suckered into what was going on with Dr. Smith, and the fact that they had to leave it up to the robot to see through the guys. But I still like it, the fact that I think it seems to be that as every episode progresses, we're getting more of the spotlight on the trio of the robot, Dr. Smith and Will. And that seems to be, I think, maybe directly related to the quality of the episodes, maybe. Because obviously, if you're going to center it around just those three, you're going to run out of ideas pretty soon, and you're going to get repetitive. I mean, I like those. I like the trio. I like those three. They're very entertaining. But you also want to see the rest of the cast, and we'll see more of the cast. And if you're out there saying, "Well, do they ever get off this planet?" Yes, they will. Patience. Believe me, that was what the fans were saying back then in the '60s too. And the network, they even went into Urban Allen's office. They when they going to get off that darn planet. So yes, they had not forgotten about that, and they did bring it up. A lot of what we think about now, they actually thought about then. So that's always a good thing. And if you like my channel, if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Maybe hit the like button. I have, obviously, we covered Lost in Space here. And in my opinion, I have the best co panelists in the world. And I appreciate and I love every time they're here. And then tomorrow you'll find me on Antiderivative Jill's channel tomorrow around noon Central Time, where we're going to cover the episode Assignment Earth. Tomorrow night, like I said, 6 p.m. Pacific, we're going to cover The Blob from 1958, the original version. We will be doing all horror movies this week since it is the month of Halloween. I should have came up with a Halloween theme. I don't know why I hadn't done that instead of just having it the usual. But it's too late now. I digress. Um, Tomorrow night, The Blob. Next Tuesday, Jurassic Park. And on Wednesday night, if everything goes well, I'll be getting caught up on Gilligan's Island. We're on season 2 with my good friend Drula's Random Thoughts. And then on Saturday, I will do my rumblings from the lab, which is open topic, open mic. And I was thinking earlier in the last couple of days about a morning show. I've had people ask me about if I would host a morning stream with open topic, open mic. And I'm considering doing that. I just got to come up with a format and a title and stuff like that. So I'm working on that. If that's your cup of tea, since I don't drink coffee, so it could be your cup of tea. So there you go. So eventually I'll be doing that. I'll try to find a day that's good for everybody. I know a lot of people work during the day, but I'll try to pick something that's a little neutral, maybe a little more available for everyone. Lemon Pie says, good night, everyone. Good night, Lemon Pie, and thank you for being here.
All right, Lemon.
Yeah, Lemon
Good
Pie
night,
says,
lemon
oh,
pie.
I'll wait for Pop's review. Well, there it is. Okay. And Taylor Swift
It
gives applause. I believe that's applause.
looks
Nemesis
like
Donut.
Eden
cookies.
says, oh, donuts, yummy. Stay amazing, you beautiful being, says Nemesis of Eden.
Oh, you too,
Thank you,
Nemesis.
Nemesis.
Good night,
Lemon Pie
Nemesis.
says, cheap beer, who are you, Scotty?
That one was funny, and I
No, I
laughed at
bought
it.
the beer like a couple weeks ago, and it's been in the fridge. So I just finishing off the last few cans tonight. So
I've got no problem
it's
with
like,
cheap beer. Believe me, right now, I wish I could drink any beer. And our drip Jill says lemon pie and laughing. And Nemesis of Eden shows us
Yeah,
dinosaurs?
you're covering Jurassic Park, so he put in
yeah,
dinosaurs. You're covering a movie from my childhood. That's pretty cool.
Jurassic Park was a lot of fun. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I actually, when I that's back when I was at art school. What was that? Late '80s, early '90s. Uh, I had one of my lady friends from art school go to the cinema with me to watch Jurassic Park, and we totally got into it. Like it was really great fun on a big screen. Awesome
It
film.
is incredible.
Yeah, and
I could
what's
watch it any
crazy is
day.
it was what, late 90s, right? 99, something like that, 2000, somewhere on there?
Oh no, it must have been earlier than that because I was still at art college.
Okay.
Maybe
Um,
1990.
1993.
Thank
Oh, was
you.
it that late? Okay.
Oh, I was
Gosh.
way off.
Wow.
But
So
what
was
was
I.
interesting about it is I still remember walking out of the theaters thinking, all right, now, so we've established that they've got dinosaurs looking realistic. When are we going to get? I want the ultimate because I'm such an old horror hound of like the Beast from the 20,000 Leagues and all those movies. They were Ray Harryhausen movies where they had monsters, giant
Oh
monsters
yeah.
attacking cities. So as soon as I walked out of Jurassic Park, I thought, all right, now they've got great looking, realistic looking dinosaurs. So now I can't wait for the next movie where they're attacking a city and they're in civilization. And here, how many decades are we on it later? And they're still not showing that. And I don't know why. Because that's
Yeah.
what I want. I want dinosaurs rampaging. Well, I guess the closest we get to it is Godzilla. We got a little bit
Pretty
of that in the
much.
Godzilla movie, right? In the King Kong.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, to date, I don't see any rampaging dinosaurs like in L.A. or San Francisco or any of that stuff.
Well,
It always takes
late.
place on an island. I don't know why they haven't gotten past that.
I remember in the late '60s when we had the moon landing. You know, when Neil Armstrong said, "One step for man, one step for mankind," and all that cool stuff. I remember that on the TV, right? And it's like, okay, I'm thinking, well, we're going to have like a city on the moon in 10 years and there'll probably be some swanky hotel. I mean, just think some swanky hotel could put a hotel on the moon and charge millions of dollars for people to stay there for a week. and yet, nope, they haven't done it yet. So I'm like, okay.
Right, and there are people with money who would be willing to do it. I don't know if
Oh
they could
hell
be
yeah,
sustained, because there's
hell
only so
yeah.
many rich people in the world. But Star
Well,
Wars tried it and they failed miserably.
well, because they suck. They
Well,
effed it up
yeah,
though.
right to cut to the
Horrible,
chase, they
horrible
sucked.
garbage.
Yes, they
Like
really
you're saying,
underestimated the intelligence of the money paying public. Right,
oh God, did they ever? Like, I saw videos about that hotel and it looked like really bad, really bad.
right from the beginning, it looked horrible.
Yeah, it just looked like garbage basically. But hey, like, isn't Elon Musk doing some kind of spaceship to take people into orbit for like, I don't know, two hundred
Yes,
thousand bucks or whatever it is for
yeah.
a
One of the
flight?
first trips, a Japanese entrepreneur, a super rich Japanese guy, bought the whole entire all the seats, and he was giving them out almost like a raffle to people, like teachers and scientists and things like
That's
that.
cool. That's kind of
It
cool,
was,
actually.
it was. I thought that was cool that he did that. So they've already got passenger lists already waiting. Just got to
Yeah,
get all
the
the
thing
bugs
is,
worked out.
if you got passenger list to have a a rocket that can go into orbit, like give Elon another 5 years, he'll probably have some rocket that'll fly to the moon, and then it's only
Oh.
a matter of time before he builds a hotel there, right, and makes a
Well,
fortune, right?
we can always hope, but unfortunately, if you're watching along with what's been going on, NASA seems really bent on ending his missions. There's a lot
Really?
that NASA, yes, they keep sabotaging a lot of what he's doing.
That sucks.
Oh, believe me, yeah, I totally agree. You're right. The question is, they of course they're not going to tell us why. Is it because they're jealous because he's steps above and beyond them, or is there something they don't want him telling us?
Hmm.
Right. There's a lot of questions, but it's very highly suspicious.
That's really bad. Shit.
Members of Eden says money for cheap beer, but not eggnog. Well, yeah,
Yeah, sadly.
priorities,
Sadly.
priorities. Lemon Pie says good night, everybody. It was good night, Lemon Pie. And yes, I will be wrapping this up. I know we've said that, but I really mean it this time. Lemon Pie says, "Oh, I'll wait for Pop Shoe." Sorry, I guess I'm repeating this. Let me go back. Nemesis V says, "Stay amazing, you beautiful beings." Lemon Pie says, "Cheap beer, who are you, Scotty?" There we go. And Jill's laughing at Lemon Pie. Lemon Pie shows that's where we left off with the dinosaurs. Thanks, ladies and gents. Subbed. Glad to hear that, Abaru. And
Yeah, bro.
Nemesis of Eden says, "Love me some Jurassic Park. Very cool. That's going to be a blast when we get to that." Nemesis of Eden says, "More like Godzilla versus Frankenstein. If you know, you know." Yes, Godzilla versus Frankenstein. Absolutely right. I agree. Nemesis of Eden says, "You rock, Abaru." And Nemesis of Eden says, "How long until we mine the moon? Deface it after millions of years being there. Joy, oh joy." Yeah, I know. I
Um,
regret it. It's all speculation. I'll put it that way. It's speculation. Whether there's more on the moon than what they're telling us, there's speculation that they're hiding a lot. Then there's also speculation of what will we do as Earthlings? Are we going to deface it and turn it ugly like we did our planet?
we
I mean,
might
because
because there's some helium-3 on there that we would need if we can actually figure out fusion power. Then the moon would have that resource.
I agree.
I always thought though when they brought the moon rocks back from the Apollo missions, they probably weren't worth a whole lot, like the chemicals and whatever the content of the rocks. I mean, if
Well,
they'd
more for
found them,
knowledge, right? It's not like it was gold and platinum, but it was more for the
well,
knowledge.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly the point I was just going to make. If the moon rocks were like solid gold and platinum, you can bet your backside that we would have been up there within a year with a mining expedition digging the hell out of the moon, right? Like we would have been just like shoveling tons of that stuff back to Earth because, people are greedy, basically. So, yeah,
Right. Right. That's why we have oil pipelines, but not water pipelines. That's why we have,
exactly.
entire areas that
Exactly.
have drought because there's no money in there.
Yeah. That's why I'm paying $1.80 for a liter of gasoline here.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's horrible.
Nimbus of Eden says we all know Santa lives on the moon. Exactly right. Santa definitely lives on the moon. We all know that, and there's evidence of it too. Lemon Pie says I have nothing original. I had nothing against cheap beer. If I liked it, I'd save money. For me, honestly, and I know this is going to sound cheap, but the darker the beer, the more it makes me sick, upsets my stomach. I know the taste is too strong, So I know that's a lot of the IPs, as they call them, and that
Yeah,
fancy stuff that goes for
I,
$10 a bottle. But that, it actually, for me, I don't like the taste.
yeah, I
I
avoid
don't like
dark
the
beer.
taste of those either, but I do like dark. I like Red Stripe.
I
Red
never did
Stripe. I
go
haven't
for
heard of that.
dark beer. That's like more British beer, right? The dark stuff, like Guinness or whatever. Um,
Stripe is Jamaican.
yeah, the beer I'm drinking
Hmm.
here is the Shaftesbury Brewing Company, which is like a craft brewery from Vancouver. And the beer I'm drinking is called 420 Brilliant Lager. And I find lagers generally light enough where it's actually, pretty enjoyable. So
Very cool.
it's pretty light beer, pretty light beer, really.
And let me show. I usually sometimes will show at least one behind the scenes photo of Lost in Space before we wrap up the show and show the teaser for next week. And I thought this one might be interesting to share with everyone. So this was
That's
obviously a publicity photo for 20th Century Fox.
so the robot got what, pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt, I'm guessing?
Probably so, right? But he's also in the
Yeah.
back seat. So right.
Yeah,
So what?
Yeah, where's the
exactly.
driver?
He's not in the driver's seat, but that's
Is
just fine.
Dr. Smith driving that car? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, exactly. And as you can see here in the headline, the CBS and 20th Century Fox PR people were building the robot up as a new top TV star, and I can understand that.
Oh,
Shame
the
only
robot's.
got
Yeah, the
I
robot
would
is
3
go
years
to
of
a
it. It's a
extraordinary.
parade.
shame.
I would go to a parade with the robot in a car like that.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
The
oh yeah.
robot is awesome.
Anytime, I would love it.
Love the robot. He's one of my favorite characters in the show, actually.
Yep, and a very rare move on the network's part because, like we mentioned before, it was the network's idea to bring in Dr. Smith and the robot, and I think that was a gold decision in itself. The
Oh yeah.
series, I don't think, would have lasted for 3 years otherwise. Especially writing out that Batman craze, that was a little rough period there for the,
Oh,
like
season
we
two.
mentioned, yeah, like we mentioned in previous streams, everybody trying to be Batman. That really was a detriment to a lot of good shows back in the day.
Well, season two of Lost in Space, season three of Man from Uncle. I think Wild Wild West probably suffered around season two or three from the Batman effect. So it really, really did damage a lot of really quality, great shows. Sadly.
It did, and it's sad. And Abreu says ales. And Nemesis Bean says 420. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if you know what I mean. I totally agree, Nemesis.
Yeah, I think I get the meaning there.
That is the way to go.
That is the way to go, right? At least, right? Just remember, it's not a drug. It's not a chemical. It's not man-made. It's a natural plant. I know the government wants you to think otherwise, but it's a natural plant. Nothing's good to smoke. Your lungs, obviously, you don't want to put anything in your lungs. But if I was going to put a natural plant in my lungs, it would be 420 over tobacco.
Well, the thing is, we have it legal for like 5 years up here in Canada now, so you can get smokables, or if you don't like smoking, you can get edibles to munch on too. So
Yeah, they have creams, lotion, everything now.
yeah, like probably little jelly babies and all kinds of stuff, right? So
Right. What we're seeing is all the reasons why the medical industry kept it illegal for so many years. This is exactly what they did not want.
it's definitely a medicinal thing for some people because I've heard of people that'll take like the oils and they feel much, much better with a little daily dose,
Yep.
say, to keep them
Or
going,
the lotion, like on a sore ankle or a bad back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
There are healing factors.
I
And
think so.
Abaru says, sad Green Hornet didn't do well. Yeah,
Oh,
Green
that was a
Hornet was a
great
little
show.
late to the game. Oh, there's so many we can go on about Green Hornet. Uh, it was too late to the game, in my opinion, because it came out when the Batman fad was fading out. I'll put it that way. So I think Greenhorn was a little late on the boat. And another thing that I think really damaged it was the fact they didn't let Bruce Lee just cut loose and do everything he normally does,
Yeah,
because they were
yeah.
very racist at the time, and they didn't think that the public was ready for that when we all know we were.
Oh, yeah. Green Horror was actually a really great show in a lot of ways. Like it had so much potential, but it only made what's one season, I think 26 episodes in total before they
Yes,
canceled it.
yes,
And and Bruce Lee was fantastic as Kato in that show.
very
But damn,
reserved, right? Very reserved.
but
You
when
would
they
never,
kicked
by watching that show, you would never know half the things that he can do.
but there were episodes where they'd cut him loose and he could really, kick ass and do a lot of the, kung fu stuff. And oh my goodness, those episodes when they actually let Bruce Lee, turned him loose is like, wow, there were some incredible fight scenes in that series. Even though there weren't enough of them, it would have been 10 times better if they'd featured, basically if they let Bruce Lee cut loose on the bad guys in every episode, it would have been a far far better show in my
It would have
opinion.
been a 5 minute episode.
He
Well,
would have
plus,
killed everybody.
right, and plus, and the stipulation was then they didn't want him upstaging Van Johnson.
Yeah,
So
sadly,
he
I
would
did. Yeah,
immediately surface as everyone's favorite, and Van Johnson didn't want that.
yeah, it's sad.
Right? Is that yeah? The fact that he was resorted to a sidekick.
Yeah,
Bruce Lee
Bruce
is a
Lee was great.
sidekick. Most people say Bruce Lee is a sidekick. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was though most of the episodes. Yeah.
Yep. Lemon Pie says 420. What's that? A lager? Apparently
Yes,
so. That's what
it's a lager.
PvP's drinking right now. Lemon Pie. Just kidding. Don't explain. And Lemon Pie says eggnog edibles. Well, that sounds yummy. I do like eggnog.
Okay.
Lemon
Oh my
Pie says
God.
legalize eggnog in all provinces. Yes, you'll have no argument from me. And Nims of Eden says it puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Oh Jesus.
Right. All right. And I wanted to thank everybody in the chat, everyone for joining us. And if you haven't done so already, consider maybe hitting the like button on your way out, sharing my channel out to other people. I hope to be adding more content here in the near future. Hopefully, I'll reach 1,000 subs within a certain amount of time. I don't know, eventually.
You and
I'm
Jill have
very
been.
thankful for how many I have. Yeah. And thank you. I forgot to bring this up. But I owe an enormous amount of gratitude to Jill because she brought to my attention a Yahoo article that brought up the bloopers on my channel.
And I'm
And
sure it's not the only article that's done it.
well, it was incredible because I didn't even know it. And the fact you brought it to my attention, I really owe you and thank you for that, Jill.
You're welcome.
I'm really impressed how much both your channels, Pop and Jill's channel, have bounced up in recent weeks, if not the last month or two, in the number of us of subs. It's like it's quite phenomenal, really. It's like
Well, it is. And look at her chat panel. Her panels and her chats really exploded. She gets a lot of big people on there.
that's
I get
so
a lot
cool.
of chats. I can't even keep up with it. It is a blessing. I love it.
You guys, though, uh, in my humble opinion, as a friend of both of you, you guys totally deserve every sub you get because you guys work your butts off to create quality content like we are sharing tonight, and I just love both your channels, which is why I've been sub to them for many, 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 many months. But it's like you guys deserve every sub you get because I see a lot of channels on YouTube that have, even more subs, and I'll take a look at them briefly just to check them out. And it's like, gee, this channel's not very good at all. It's got really crappy content. And then I'm, scratching my head going, oh, I can't figure that one out. But I come back to your channels every week, and it's like you're adding constantly really quality, streams, of good content. So you guys totally deserve every bit of success you're getting, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Well, I
Thank
think
you,
another thing,
PvP.
too, is we totally love and respect our subs. Every sub to me is just as important. I don't care if I have 5,000 subs or one sub. Every single one of them is important.
Yeah, that's right.
And
And we're also just as passionate about the things we're talking about. Sometimes with the bigger channels, they don't write the scripts themselves, and you can kind of tell it's not actually something they love. And
trouble
it
I
with
doesn't.
bigger
totally
It's
agree.
not
Yeah,
always.
channels, yeah.
very
But
good
Not
once
point.
you get
always true.
once you get to like 100,000 subs or half a million or a million subs, it's like you just don't have the energy or the time to even respond to any comments in your chat, right? It's just like it's just not going to happen because
Well, see,
those
and I would
people are
think that if I had a,
overwhelmed.
yeah, but I would think that if I have let's say 10,000 subs, I would be more excited. I'd be putting more effort into it, not less.
Oh, I would
There
try.
are there
Yeah, but
are a few exceptions where they do, but most of the time, no.
Right.
yeah,
And especially, and I'm looking at all those channels where the only time that they'll address your chat is if you pay them money. I think that's
oh yeah.
despicable, and that's the lowest of the low.
Yeah, yeah, I know some of those. No,
Right.
not mentioning any names, but I know who. I
Right.
think I have a good guess.
To each their own, but it's just not my bag.
uh,
I'm going to
Yeah,
read everybody's chat.
even if your chat's going by really fast, it doesn't hurt to glance over, see something you like, and call it out,
yeah, I
Yes.
or
agree
say
that
hi to
you
someone you haven't
shouldn't.
seen in a while.
Yeah, I agree with Pop that you shouldn't have to pay a fee just to get your comment acknowledged, right? I just think that's kind of cheesy, personally, from what I think. But whatever.
And
Yeah.
what they call super chat square ups. That's the most. Oh, the indignity of it. My
Oh
goodness.
yeah, they'll have the super chat square ups where they'll just do nothing but read super chats as a catch up thing, right?
Right. And
Kind
when
of
they
deal.
and when they're reading it, they don't even remember what it was about. They're just reading it, just to read it,
Yeah,
and then
just
on
to
to the
just
next one, on to the
yeah,
next one, on to the
yeah.
right. So it's like, no,
Yeah,
I'd
it's
rather.
like a last resort kind of thing when, well, for a content creator who does a super chat square up who actually cares about their chats, the super chat square up is like for emergencies where you really can't get to everybody, and that's unfortunate. But there are some channels who overuse it and, like you say, just read it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's
I
But
can
unfortunate.
it
guarantee
was
you.
invented by somebody who actually really does care about their chat.
I'm not sure who invented it, but I do believe you. And
Hmm.
I already know, and I know I can pretty tell I'm a fairly good judge of character. And I can say I know I'll never be like that, and I don't think Jill's gonna ever be like that. So you're in good
Yeah.
company here, everybody. You know that you'll always be treated just as much. If somebody puts, I don't care if somebody sends a $500 super chat in, and you send in nothing, I don't care. I'm gonna read and address your chat. It's the same.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, you guys always. I just think you guys are so personable and relatable, and you're down to earth folks, and we have such fun every week chatting on whatever stream we happen to be on, and I think of you guys as really enjoyable internet friends personally. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I like people that I can relate to that are down to earth and real, and you guys are both very down to earth and real folks, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it is very simple. Just be transparent, be honest. But we don't have to
Yeah,
be a good liar. You don't have to have a really good memory,
exactly. Yeah.
right? Which I'm bad at. I'm a bad liar, and I have a bad memory. So I try not to do that.
Join the club. I think I fall into that club too, Pop.
Yeah, it's much easier just to be honest. It's much better.
Yeah.
Lemon Pie says the chat is degenerating, including me. Time to wind it down. Oh, so,
Uh-oh.
okay. Well,
Uh-oh.
I know we've been kind of lingering on here. Lemon Pie says Pops and Jill have taken off. Yeah, and all thanks to you guys. Remember that. It's all thanks to you guys. And we'll always give credit to where credit is due. Nemesis Bean says they have and deserve it. Well, thank you, Nemesis.
Thank you.
Lemon Pie says hope to see Pop monetized one day if he wishes to. That is. Oh, I guess so. I don't take it seriously where I've got to have money, 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 and you'll never see me begging on Twitter for more subs. I know there's a lot of people that do that, but I won't do it. When they come along naturally, they come along naturally. That's the way I look at it. If monetization comes along, so be it. If not, so be it. From what I hear, it's not a lot of money anyway, so I'm not really eager. And I'm definitely not going to be one of those channels that begs for money every 5 minutes, because there are channels that do that every 5 minutes. Donate to us, and it's like no, no. And
Yeah,
it's too
I
bad.
don't
There's
think.
some good channels out there that I used to sub to that I couldn't take it anymore. Constant begging for money. I just because then I could be watching regular television on ABC if I want that kind of garbage.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Jeez.
And Lemon Pie says I'm just poking fun at myself and not tell you when to end streams. LOL. No, but we are getting close to the end of this one, and I had a great turnout, and I really appreciate that. Everybody, thanks to you. Nemesis V says, "Stop being so sour, Lemon." Well, lemons are
Oh,
sour. Add a little bit of
Nemesis.
sugar. Add a little bit of sugar, and it'll
Nemesis.
be just fine.
That's a sour joke, man.
All right. So I'll be closing this, and I'm going to be showing our teaser for next week, which we usually end on our final note.
Oh yeah.
And with that, thank you everybody on the chat. Like I said, I know I've said it, and I'm being repetitive, but I'll say it again because I love you guys so much, and especially for all you guys on the panel tonight, Jill and PvP. Thank you for helping me out, and especially Jill for doing the slides, and I know the extra effort on the watermarks.
Yeah, Jill's
Um,
And
slides
I
look
found out a
great.
way to reduce the time that takes, so it's not as bad now. But yes, thanks.
The watermarks were great too, Jill. Like I barely noticed them. Like they were not intrusive or annoying in any way.
That's
So
great. I'm
you
glad.
did a great job on them. Like awesome stuff. I got to give that a big thumbs up, Jill.
Yeah, and well, I'll know for sure when Paramount either claims my stream tomorrow or not how
Yeah,
well they work.
we'll find out in a day or two, won't we?
Yep.
Oh gosh,
right, shame
hopefully it
on
won't
you,
be a
Paramount.
problem. Yeah,
Shame on you,
Paramount.
Paramount, CBS, the whole lot.
It's
Mhm,
Thanksgiving
exactly.
here, and Paramount's sucking the turkey, in my opinion.
All right. So with that, thank you everybody. Drive safe tomorrow, and I know it's late, and a lot of you have to work.
Wait, did you play the teaser trailer?
I
Not
was going
yet.
to do that just now.
Oh,
I was
okay.
saying my
Okay,
goodbyes, and I was
great.
going to play it.
Gotcha.
I
Well,
hope I covered everything else.
you did. You got everything else.
I think it's pretty good, Pop. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, drive safe tomorrow, everybody. And if you were here tonight with us, I really appreciate it. And believe me, I get excited and humbled every time I see you guys join my stream because it means really a lot to me. And as a last note, remember tomorrow, if you can, around noon Central Time, join us on Antiderivative Jill's channel where we're going to cover Star Trek, the original series episode, Assignment Earth. And then tomorrow night on my stream, 6 p.m. Pacific, we're going to cover The Blob from 1958. So with that, enjoy, have a wonderful night, and here's our preview for next week's Lost in Space. Hopefully it'll open. There we go.
Good night.
They consume everything until there's not a living thing left.
I wouldn't try anything.
I'll answer that. And the answer is to keep your hands to yourself, whoever you are.
I'll burn your tongue out.
Get lost.
Now pick up his trail. I want him found.